last year the U.S. should stick to daylight saving time. Congress mandated summertime during World War I. Congress even overrode the veto of President Woodrow Wilson to set the clocks back. The Uniform Time Act of 1966 officially established time zones. That law determined when we changed the clocks. Congress voted to put the U.S. on daylight saving time for 2 years after the 1973 OPEC oil embargo.
Fox's Chad Perkram. Actress Lori Loughlin is reported to federal prison in California to begin serving a 2-month prison term for her role in the college admissions cheating scandal. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
College roommates continue their bonding process until real friends are made, and a teacher hopes they never Google him. It's time for the weekly video feature that's heartier and more comforting than a heaping bowl of mom's butternut squash soup. This is the Onion Week in Review. Longtime James F. Blaine Elementary School teacher Suzanne Pomponio told reporters today that she could not believe how much fatter her second graders are getting. Pomponio estimates that each and every one of her kids must be 8 to 10 pounds heavier than anyone in her 2011 class, adding, quote, "and those kids were pretty fat too."
Honestly, I didn't think it was possible that this year's kids could be fatter than last year's, but they are. I mean, short kids are fat, tall kids are fat, and there's a smell. I don't really know how to describe it.
Local dad Michael Carrain navigated several discount travel websites today with a precision reminiscent of 18th century Viennese prodigy Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart composing a symphony.
This is the Onion News Network.
Do you sometimes feel that healthy eating can be a lot of work with very little reward? Well, no need to worry any longer. Here are the Onion's tips for healthy eating. First, identify your weaknesses, and then condition yourself to avoid problem foods by associating them with deceased relatives, unrequited loves, and traumatic events. Remember, alcohol is a source of empty calories, so be sure to keep your drinking under control. Unless you're really stressed out, like if something happens at work, or if your cat gets hit by a car. If you find yourself suddenly craving a fatty food, let yourself enjoy the best of both worlds. Tape a slice of ham to your tongue and slowly absorb the taste throughout the day without swallowing. Stay motivated by paying yourself $1 every day until you meet your weight loss goals. At the end of 10 years' time, spend that cash on a cosmetic operation of your choice. There, now you're ready to begin your new healthy lifestyle.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You can join us here on the radio. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Joining you in the studio here tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody. And Chris.
And nobody, you weren't at tonight's crypto meetup, but Chris and I were, and it was a really good one. It would have been small had it not been for the 4 visitors who came in, 2 from New York, 2 from Massachusetts, who were, I don't know if they were all so-called free staters, but they were definitely liberty migrants and interested in migrating to New Hampshire for more freedom. So we actually had 7 people, I think, attending tonight. So 3 locals and then 4 people. So we actually more attendees who were from outside of the area than we did locals.
It's actually kind of sad.
Oh, wow.
It was good. It was fine. We had a good time.
Yeah, that's not a long-established gathering.
No, it's
not. So it's... it's like Social Sundays has a long tradition behind it.
And we actually told them there would probably be more people at Social Sundays.
And it does change from week to week. So it's sometimes you get 25 people and sometimes you get 2.
True, but Social Sundays tends to lean...
It's usually during Pork Fest.
Yeah, Social Sundays tends to lean more towards, I would say, 5 to 8 on the low side and then 24 on the higher side is what we saw over the last month. It's been a lot more people have been coming here into New Hampshire because they are sick and tired of being sick and tired of where they're from. In this case, this couple from New York had left the upstate New York after I guess there was some sort of a mandate by the governor about vaccines, and they've got kids. And so that pushed him over the edge. And what the father told us was that he was doing a lot of research, and he found the 101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire video.
Nice.
That, it's 5 years old, at least, I think 6 years at this point. It came out in 2014.
It's
that
a
video.
timeless film, though.
I'm not going to say it's timeless. I'm going to say that it's
history.
holding
It's
up.
about an hour and a half long.
It's history.
I think it's only about an hour, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's history.
So it's not timeless.
Yeah, but it is a piece of history,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff that's still true about it. So it's still it motivated them to move
It's
here.
not to say it's not dated. It's obviously going to be the date out of date as soon as you make it. But that's not the point. The point is it's the general message, and that's never going to be out of date.
Yeah, the message of migrate freedom lovers to the same place. Yeah. Here's what's already happened circa 2014,
Absolutely.
which was a lot in 2014,
Yep.
and of course it's more now. But it's really cool to see people still coming here and still just discovering this, because for these folks, I didn't get the impression that he had really heard of us for very long, that it was sort of a new thing that they were.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Like, oh my God, the state wants to force vaccinate us. We're out of here.
Yep.
And they moved to New
There's going
Hampshire.
to be a lot of people, and we need that because there are not enough libertarians in the United States to make the United States libertarian.
Not at all.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
But there are more than enough libertarians in the United States to make New Hampshire libertarian.
Exactly.
And,
or more libertarian, because New
yeah.
Hampshire is probably the most freedom-friendly of all of the states, excluding the COVID crackdown where it's not been so great.
The problem is that you need to get them to move.
Yes,
and
that is the problem.
Well, the thing is, their governments are doing a good job of driving them
That's why
out.
we've seen a lot of visitors recently.
And it's super interesting. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was in had gotten in other states. Like, I was talking to a dozen people just, I think, yesterday about how I don't think a single person actually had a job. Like, they had all lost their jobs. And there's going to be like half a dozen, I think, maybe more, people visiting, Keene in about 2 weeks from now.
Wow.
Just because of
just people you know of.
Yeah, just people I don't even know them. Like, I mean,
but you know of them. They're coming here.
Yeah, I mean, I
Somehow
know them.
You found out they were coming.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was part of a group that somebody added me to, and I didn't know any of these people. I still don't really know any of these people, but they're all people who are Liberty people, and they didn't know about New Hampshire or the migration movement. Some of them
until just recently.
Yeah, I just heard of it, and I was introducing them. Yeah. I mean, and they didn't know. It's like a freedom group to form cells.
I know exactly the group you're talking
not
about.
Terrorist cells, even though it might sound like that.
As a matter of fact, they may
Peace
well
cells.
be using cell 411 when I'm done with it.
Yes, exactly that group. So, cool. And I was just blown away that, like, I thought, I started a conversation with them and thinking like, oh, these people are already in New Hampshire based on what, I'm hearing. And then, I thought it was kind of weird though, because it was like, they don't seem to know a whole heck of a lot about freedom. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, where are you guys all from? And they started telling me
about freedom in books. They've just never experienced.
And exactly. And it was like New York and New Jersey and Florida and just all Connecticut. And it was like, oh, not a single one of you are in New Hampshire, and you don't even know what the Free State Project is, or that like there's a migration movement going on or anything. And then I start telling them like different stories about it, and like within a matter of like an hour, there are probably about 6 people who are literally talking about they're going to come up and visit next week.
Well, these folks
2 weeks from now
were blown away. So, I mean, the people from New York. I mean, New York is the 50th most free state, right? Like, it's not free at all. It's like the least free of all the 50 states. And these people were just amazed at the difference between what it was like where they were from and what it's like just by moving 2 hours east, basically, because they were from the eastern part of New York, so they didn't even have to go that far. But they came out today, had a good time at our crypto meetup, and I love that we're seeing a larger number of people come in. This has been, I would say, a banner year. I would say 2020 compared to the last several years. 2020 we've had more visitors here than I would say in the last several years.
And we're going to have people hot to move.
I'm beginning to like the crackdown, the lockdown over the past year. Because
it's a motivator.
It's a motivator for people, to wake up and get their act together and start moving.
But the problem is they're cracking down in New Hampshire, too. That's not motivating people. That's going to make people want to leave.
But you know what?
Putting a stop to that will be a good way to cut our teeth.
Can we?
And
we can stop
with
that.
enough people, yes. And as people wake up here, yes.
We're going to have some non-compliance, though.
I'm not under the illusion. Okay, so I'm not under the illusion that we can, make a difference right now in regards to all the stuff that they're doing. But I think, once you get more people moving, in the course of, maybe the next 20 years, we could put a stop to a lot of this.
I hope it doesn't take 20 years to roll
I'm
back
not
the
saying
COVID
I don't
crackdown.
think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna be the case. But I'm just saying I think the next time they try,
because it's getting worse here now. The governor's saying, and we announced this on the show last night. He's saying to restaurants that they have to start asking people for their name and phone number when they come into to restaurants.
And here's the thing:
they did that in Vermont for
right,
months.
and now they're doing that. And Vermont, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but Vermont just announced that they're locking down quarantine on anyone going in and out from Vermont to New Hampshire. So
which
all 10
doesn't
New
make
Hampshire
any sense because we're like the third least infected state.
It doesn't matter
in the union.
They don't care about any of that.
No, it doesn't matter. But it's just you've got to. I mean,
total control.
Pointing that out is important, I think, because
you just hate old people.
None of it doesn't. I do hate old people, but
your parents are 90.
They're costing us.
I love my parents.
They're costing us too much money. We can't get rid of them.
But the thing is, it's none of this is about health.
No,
none of it.
It's about control.
Yeah,
total control.
It's about
dominating
control and something else. There's something else going on here. And I don't think I'll know what the trap is before it springs.
I think it's just the I don't. This is something that we've always had. It's just this is the latest excuse to take like drastic action, right? Like normally they don't have anything this bad, and I put bad in quotes here, but they don't have anything this bad to excuse their bad behavior with. Now they do, and so now they're taking.
But it's
full
not even
advantage
that bad. I mean, they've managed to get people to freak out over what is basically the flu.
Right, right. And I agree.
A rough cold.
I agree. I don't know if I would describe it as a rough cold, but I do think it's absolutely absurd the reaction that government has had on, just what is a little bit worse than a mild cold.
Yeah. Well, they're clearly looking for reasons to do what they're doing, and what they're doing seems to have one intent. And that intent, two intents. The first is to cut down communication as much as possible. The second is to make us as poor as they can.
Right,
which is
people out
not
of business.
usually in the best interests of a government, because usually a government wants their sheep fat.
I think hold that thought.
So they can be.
Yeah, it's
no,
too
hold
bland.
on. Make a note. We can come back to it.
Yeah.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And then we'll talk about geofence warrants, what that means and what they're about. Also on the way, since we're talking about migration, how about the people who left New York City but then went back?
News from news.bitcoin.com. The U.S. government moves to regulate cryptocurrencies after the Attorney General publishes enforcement framework. $4.8 billion still missing from the Silk Road. Some of the oldest Bitcoins were just moved. Is Satoshi Nakamoto back in the game? Publicly traded companies move more cash into Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
From New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author Larry Correia comes the latest chapter in the epic military fantasy saga of The Forgotten Warrior. When the Grand Inquisitor perverts the law in his genocidal plot to kill every man, woman, and child in the untouchable caste, only the traitor Ashok Vadal and the Sons of the Black Sword stand in his way. If it's war he wants, it is war he will get. Bain Books presents Destroyer of Worlds. Available September 1st wherever books are sold. Visit MonsterHunterNation.com for more.
Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon, what wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. We're here on the live Friday episode. Of course, we'll take your calls and thoughts about anything you want to discuss. You can dial in toll free. Our number is 855-450-FREE. We're just sort of generally talking about the migration of freedom-loving people to New Hampshire. You know, I got excited. I get excited when people who are new show up. Yeah. Here. It's nice to see some new blood, some new ideas, fresh faces, people coming in here. We had a couple folks,
especially people who are actually going to be activists and do something.
Yeah,
right?
He definitely the guy that was there talking with us with his wife seems like he's a real active guy. Seems like he's interested in getting stuff done, which is cool. And you know what? One of the things we've gotten done here pretty effectively in New Hampshire, at least here in Keene and out on the seacoast, is getting businesses to accept cryptocurrency. And that is something that, in my opinion, is a form of activism, and it's an important one to get people out of the dollar and give them alternatives like cryptocurrency or gold-backed.
Yeet them dollars.
Yep. And get them using these things in business and buying things. So we just left local Fun Noodle restaurant here, Fa Keene Great, in downtown Keene, and we paid via the AnyPay system. And right now, AnyPay 2.0 is here, and crypto payments are now faster than ever. If you're using Edge Wallet, Handcash, Bitcoin.com's wallet, or Dash Wallet, your experience should be smooth if you're paying through AnyPay. But some wallets, they're just not ready for this impressive new technology, and the wallet programmers in these cases, they need to hear from you, the wallet users. So if you use Coinomi, or you use Exodus Wallet, or Bread Wallet, RelayX, these are some of the wallets that are not yet compatible with AnyPay 2.0. So do yourself a favor and do us a favor as people that love cryptocurrency and that want to see crypto used for payments. Go ahead and just shoot them an email, and if you don't have their contact info for your favorite wallet, just go to anypayinc.com/upgrade. You can learn more about why some wallets are incompatible there, and then you can get their contact information to reach out to those wallet programmers and let them know that you want their wallet to be compatible to actually make it so you can spend your crypto. So go to anypayinc.com/upgrade. That's anypayinc.com/upgrade. So we were just talking about the freedom movement. You guys were, I forget exactly. I didn't make the note. I told you guys to make a note so you could continue. I think nobody, you were saying something about what you thought was going on with like the crackdown. You were speculating about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to figure out what the heck they're up to. Because, government is always bizarre, but they have been beyond bizarre. And usually you can tell, kind of what the scam is. And in the case of this, I have not. I mean, obviously they're always trying to ramp up the tyranny, but why at hyper speed and why now?
Well, right, because I think one of the points you touched on earlier, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that, yeah, of course the government wants to crack down. They want to tyrannize. They want to make people uncomfortable and extract as much wealth and obedience from them as possible. But if they destroy a bunch of businesses, then doesn't that hurt their tax receipts?
Yes, it hurts their ability to tax, and so it's irrational for them. It's like if a farmer went out and started just whacking his sheep when there was no market for the meat.
But I think what you're missing is it's about the power. These are power seekers. That's the people who get elected. These are people who seek power.
No,
right?
I know that's what it's about.
I don't think
money
it's about
power.
the money so much. Money is power, but I don't think it's not them personally getting the money, right? So what they're seeking is control. They're seeking power.
Well, they end up with an awful lot of the money.
They don't.
The Clintons ended up being multi-millionaires after 8 years in office.
The corporations give them money.
They weren't even millionaires going in, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think this idea that it's planned, it's like somehow been planned. I don't think so. I think the way it is working is it's basically people taking advantage of something that has sounds scary and has had some impact, but it's they're exploiting it effectively.
Is it possible that they're just so economically ignorant that they don't realize the impact of the actions that they're taking?
I think they are.
Absolutely not, because everything they've done for the last 100 years has been so perfectly tuned to getting the results that they've gotten, Yes. Everything.
So what are we talking about specifically?
I'm talking about since the creation of the Federal Reserve, they have managed to come up with every lie on earth to let them implement exactly the programs that would make them the richest and the rest of us the poorest. And they had to know what they were doing when they were doing that. It wasn't an accident. The system isn't broken. The system has been working perfectly. It's just doing something horrible, so people think it's broken.
Well, maybe that's part of it then, nobody. Maybe you mentioned the Federal Reserve, right? This semi-private, quasi-private banking cartel that essentially runs the money system. And rules the government to some extent, because what was it? Was it Rothschild who said, "I care not who writes the laws, so long as I control the money," or something like that?
Yeah, when you got a license to print money, it's easy to do things like buy control of two political parties and get them to team up to destroy their country.
Maybe this is somebody at the Federal Reserve level or whoever's higher up than that, right? The Bilderberg Group or the World Economic Forum or whatever, because maybe they decided that this is their last bash. They're just going to go all in, do crazy money printing, do crazy transfers of wealth from the poor to the rich, because that's ultimately what happens, right? When you print out a ton of money, which is what they did earlier this year and will continue to do as soon as they come up with a new multi-trillion-dollar agreement between once the Republicans and Democrats have scratched each other's backs enough and log rolled enough on this next thing, they're going to print out trillions more, and and that results in, of course, money going to mostly the politically connected, and that means the value comes out of the pockets of everybody else. So it could just be a big cash grab, and they're just like, well, whatever, we don't care what happens to the economy, we're taking as much as we can out of it. But why now? Still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it it does feel like an end game. And if you figure that if they created the Federal Reserve with a 100-year plan, which is, a reasonably round way to schedule things, then they would be a few years overdue for that plan to come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one major place where the plan fell down is I think the Clintons were supposed to get the guns in the 90s, and they couldn't do it. And so I think they've kind of been playing catch up since then.
It seems like the entire, economic system is kind of collapsing in some respects because of what they're doing. But at the same time, they're taking money for themselves. So they don't really care about the whole system as a whole. I don't think any one individual does. I think it's more along the lines of, okay,
getting out what they can get.
They're going to take what they can get. And that's kind of leading to also this economic collapse. But at the same time, using it to get more power. And to get more control, Of
course, the other possibility is they're setting the stage for an invasion
of what?
Because,
who, where?
Chinese and basically Chinese and Russian communists.
That seems unlikely, but I think your communist threat is more likely from within. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, and they've been infiltrating the government for a very, very long time.
It would be handy for them to have reinforcements.
More coming up.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at MyMagicMud.com. FTL20 MyMagicMud.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You dial in if you want to join us here. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We have different ways for you to contact us, though, not just those toll-free lines. We also have our Matrix chat server where you can connect with us there. And if we can get you on the air, you will sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. So you can join our Matrix server. Just go to chat.lrn.fm. You get step-by-step instructions on how to do that at chat.lrn.fm. You've definitely heard us talking about Divvy here on Free Talk Live, and maybe you've been interested in learning more about it and possibly setting up a masternode or doing some staking. Well, it's super easy with Divvy compared to a lot of those other cryptocurrencies out there. You can go to diviproject.org and get started there. That's Divvy Project, D-I-V-I project.org. They've got a Telegram channel right there linked from their front page, so you can easily connect with the Divvy team. In fact, they'll even sell you Divvy directly, which helps you avoid those exchanges and having to jump through whatever arbitrary exchange hoops and then possibly worry about pushing the price up if you're going to buy some. So it's a good way to do it is to just get it straight from the guys from Divvy. DivvyProject.org, D-I-V-I project.org. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
So we were just sort of generally talking about this sort of what we're faced with out there with governments all around, not just the United States, but also the world, in various levels of crackdown, some of which are actually getting more intense as of recently.
Oh, yeah.
The city of Newark, New Jersey, for instance. Over in the UK, there's severe crackdowns. New York City. In other places, some places they're opening up a little bit, but in other places where they already opened up a little bit, now they're saying, well, no, we can't open up now. We got to re-crack down. It's Christmas time, says the people in the UK, so we want to have a good Christmas, so we're going to crack down hard for 2 weeks, lock everybody up in a red zone or a tier 3, I guess is what they call it. Now, it's not everybody, but a lot of the UK is now in a so-called tier 3 status where you can't go outside and go from one tier to the next. They're harassing people that are on public transport. They're shaking them down. There's all kinds of just crazy news and crazy threats out there. So if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. And of course, there's just this continuing propaganda coming from the mainstream media about fear and how to be afraid and be super safe. And there's just in the news, there's been some really ridiculous stories about Halloween, which of course is right around the corner. We're doing the pre-Halloween show. Of course, Halloween would be tomorrow night. But some places are banning Halloween entirely. Others are putting out advisements on how to have a safe Halloween, by basically removing any semblance of fun.
I just assumed Halloween was canceled. Is that still going on?
It depends on where.
What about Keene? Is Keene going on?
I believe Keene it's happening.
Really? Interesting.
But some of the towns in Massachusetts, not so much. And so we can talk more about that as well. Plus, California recently came out with ridiculous Thanksgiving rules in place that are
my God, those were amazing.
They're so just absolutely outrageous that even some of the Californians are upset about it. So we can share those with you if we get the chance. But I wanted to talk first about these city people from New York City.
New York City?
Get a rope. The New York Post, I saw this headline and I'm like, all right, we got to talk about this. Headline: I fled New York City amid COVID and it was the worst decision of my life. So we're dealing with this problem, though.
He must have run into some libertarians.
I don't think it was that. I don't think he ended up this person was in New Hampshire. But that they did go to, the person did go to Massachusetts, I think, and others went to Vermont.
It's like rural Massachusetts?
See, this is the thing. Everything's rural compared to New York City.
That's what I mean. Like,
Okay.
so you probably bumped into some Republicans or something, and it was like freaking out.
It's more than that.
No, okay.
So that's one of the things I wanted to discuss. Given that we've actually seen people coming to New Hampshire, we've seen liberty-loving people giving up on states like New York. Finally, we've been trying to convince them of this. Hey, you're in the worst place for freedom. Why don't you just move to the best place for freedom?
They already know that.
They know
like,
it, but there's
getting them to move is the hard
right,
part.
There's habits.
It's like,
people get into a habit. They get into a routine.
And they make excuses. It's like you can't run a business from New Hampshire. I mean, like, come on.
Well, I mean, I can understand if you've got a regional business that's successful.
I get that.
And you've got a customer list. I mean, that's hard to walk away from.
It is.
And I understand people, they love their families, and it's hard to walk away from
So you take a
from
couple of years, you run the business down, and then you move and you start a new business.
I mean, look, anybody that wants to do this can do it. They will make it happen.
Yep.
The universe will open up opportunities for you. I know somebody who made the decision to move to New Hampshire. She said she made this decision, and the next day she received a message on Twitter from somebody she'd never met before asking if she wanted to come work in New Hampshire. It's a temporary job, but it was an opportunity, to come up and check. So it was like the next day the universe just created this opportunity. So we want to go to your calls and thoughts. But what about the people who left New York City and then went back during this COVID thing? That's what I want to talk about. Those are the people I want to talk about. But let's go first to Bo in South Carolina. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Bo.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey.
I want to talk about where this thing really come from.
All right, tell me.
Back in July 4th of last year, there was all these stories about a vaping disease. I'm sure y'all remember that.
Yeah.
But you mysteriously don't hear anything about that anymore.
I made that connection too.
And then on August 1st of last year, you can look this up. It was in the New York Times on their website. The Army's Biological Weapons Lab at Fort Detrick, Maryland, was shut down for releasing viruses. And you don't hear anything about the vaping disease anymore.
It's a great point. Yeah, it was all the rage. You're absolutely right. A year ago, it was on the front page of newspapers.
I mean, this is the thing, though. The newspapers always freak out about every little thing.
But they were tracking the number of people that were dying from it. It was like an everyday thing. And there was all these laws being passed, and now the minimum age for smoking is 21 now instead of 18.
Yeah.
It almost felt like an aborted start to what they're doing now, but like they didn't quite get the story right on that. People weren't buying it.
That's an interesting point, Bo. What else did you want to share?
Well, that's pretty much it. I just want to say I believe it comes from the U.S. Army. It didn't come from China. And China says herself that they believe it comes from the U.S. Army, and I think they're right.
You know what I think it is? I think it was actually funded by I think there was some connection to government potentially, and I think what it was it was actually the United States. I don't know if it was probably government connected, but the United States actually having I think it was like a university connection, a U.S. university connection with a lab in China. So like there was a U.S. connection, but it wasn't necessarily the U.S. is where it came from. It came from China, but it was because of the U.S.
I don't think anyone's ever going to know.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't. Well, how are you going to know?
So there is you can find some information out. Like there was a there is a lab in Wuhan, for example, and that lab you can look up, and it predates. If you look back, they were doing a certain I forget I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there was certain types of experiments that they were doing, which were very dangerous, and there were many scientists who were opposed to those experiments because of the risks that were involved.
And this is literally
they were shut down at the time that the virus was basically coming out.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I think this thing is definitely engineered is that China is a country of 1 billion people, huge country. And this thing just happens to appear out of nowhere in the shadow of not only a bioweapons lab, but China's only bioweapons lab. So the chances of that happening, this one in how many cities are there in China?
Well, I mean, if it was engineered, they did a piss poor job of making it any more dangerous than any other COVID.
You don't know what the end game is, though. Maybe that wasn't their intent.
My gut is that this was an accident and it spread, and the things that people were concerned about, basically happened.
They could have lost
it just didn't end up being as bad as
something that they were working on.
Right, Bo thinks it was the American military. You think it was the Chinese government.
I don't think no. I'm not saying it's Chinese government. I think
interestingly enough, the American government has given that lab several grants.
It happened
the Clinton administration.
in China. That doesn't mean it wasn't connected to the U.S. or U.S. universities. It was, from what I understand. So, there's a U.S. connection. So it's kind of funny for the U.S. to blame China.
Yeah. Thank you, Bo, for the call tonight. I don't know. It just all sounds like speculation.
It is speculation.
855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have 2 convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay. What if you could cut your heating bills this winter with your existing wood-burning fireplace and not spend thousands doing it? You can with Great Wall of Fire fireplace grates. Our U.S. patented made-in-America Wall of Fire grates increase fireplace efficiency, eliminate fireplace smoke problems, and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. See our grates in action and get free shipping from walloffire.com or call 800-274-7364. Fireplace heat without fireplace smoke. walloffire.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And want to say thanks to Joshua, who is a Free Talk Live Silver Amplifier. Josh contributes to this program. The AMP program stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. It's a way for you to help us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations, to bring more internet listeners on board, and expose new people to the ideas of freedom. If you value what we do to the tune of $5 a month, then please go to amp.freetalklive.com like Joshua has done and sign up there. You'll get some cool perks. You get some bennies for doing that. We really appreciate it, including the
bennies and perks.
You better believe it, including the chat room for supporters that is now on our Matrix chat server. So if you're not in that yet and you are an amplifier, then you need to get in touch with me so I can help you get into that room. You can go to amp.freetalklive.com to get signed up. That's ampamp.freetalklive.com. So we've seen a huge, or at least perceived very large exodus of people coming out of places like New York City, San Francisco. There's news stories about this.
There's a statistical increase in
what it is I don't know, but it's
I don't
noticeable.
know exactly what it is, but it's
noticeable.
It's more than noticeable. It's substantial.
The houses are selling like hotcakes. I mean, you put your house on the market in this neighborhood, and this isn't the best neighborhood. It's not the worst, but it's it's fine. And these houses are going in 5 days.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think they're people coming from places like New York and New York City. And that's a bad thing to some extent, because the people who are coming, I mean, unless they're actual liberty-loving people, the people who are coming out of New York
That's not unfortunately what's driving the demand here, though.
Yeah, they're not liberty-loving people. They're people who are status from the big city, and they, bring their big city ways with them. Now, again, if you love liberty, you're welcome. Come on in. If you care about freedom, then we want to have you here in New Hampshire. But if you love telling other people what to do, and if you love the government, then you're not going to be welcome, I don't think, here. At least you shouldn't feel welcome. And
we're filling up with libertarian nationalists.
So I just wanted to focus on what I thought was a really entertaining story from the New York Post, as in entertaining, like laugh at the city people. So here we go. They took off in a hurry, but these New Yorkers are on the express line back to the city. When the pandemic hit in March, Zachary Thatcher packed his suitcases and joined the record-breaking exodus of city folk leaving town. He said, quote, "I was feeling cooped up and thought I wanted to have a more rural life that was more in tune with nature," he said, who gave up his one-bedroom apartment in the West Village in April. He said, "I thought I wouldn't come back." Turns out not all New Yorkers are cut out for country living. Quote, "I was definitely not in farm shape when I got there," said Thatcher, who volunteered at a friend's organic farm for 4.5 months.
That's what happened.
And so after testing out life in Massachusetts, Vermont, and Beacon, New York, Thatcher settled on Brooklyn. So he went to 3 different states, tried 3 different locations before ultimately going back to the city. He said, "I miss the diversity in my Jewish community. It's just so easy."
That's funny. He just said that, didn't he?
He just said that, yep. He said, "It's just so easy to walk to places without having to plan things out. You can stumble upon bars or restaurants and not be on a script here." So again, just the idea of being in the big city and walking around and finding stuff.
That kind of blows my mind. Just like
exactly what you can't do.
I don't feel like I'm cramped. Like I can't go out for lunch or any of the things that I would think that you like that he's describing in a big city, right? Like I don't feel it's that bad. Like
and you came from New Jersey, which is, I mean, it wasn't the heart of New York City where you're
definitely
from,
not. But
you were close.
I was close to it. Yeah, we were 40 minutes or so from Manhattan. So,
but this is the kind of person he's a city person, right? Like
I'm a city person too, but not. I guess in the same way.
Not like this.
Not to the same degree.
This guy, he probably spent his whole life in New York City.
Yeah.
And
no, New York is where I'd rather stay.
Right.
I get allergic smelling hay.
It's totally this guy. So, to somebody like him, living doesn't involve planning necessarily. It just goes out. He just likes to go out into the city and see what he finds. And I can understand why there's an appeal to that. It's not something I would do. I'm too damn busy to like just wander around and, run into things. But this is what his lifestyle is like.
I'm trying to like comprehend this like mentality. I mean, sure, like I like to travel too, but like I don't feel like I have to stick to one city and only like explore that one city, right? Like,
well, a New Yorker feels differently, right? Like,
yeah,
to
clearly.
them, New York is
New York
the world.
is it, and there's
That's
nothing
it.
else.
Right.
I don't understand that mentality.
So going on, and again, this is the New York Post writing the story. It's not just the boonies that are turning off city slickers. New Yorkers have been snatching up real estate in the suburbs, as well as smaller regional cities where they can get newly coveted amenities like outdoor space. Quote, I got a driveway, a yard, a washing machine, and an eat-in kitchen, said Maureen Cross, an accountant who earlier this year gave up her rent-controlled one-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side.
Whoa. You never give up a rent-controlled apartment. Never. You don't do that.
Well, she did. She wanted to get out of the city.
What are you thinking? No.
Get out of the city.
That's not how that works. It's rent-controlled.
Well, she gave it up.
That's not how any of this
She wanted
works.
out.
No, you're supposed to give it to a friend, and then.
Well, maybe she did.
And then they pay. She
didn't say who she gave it up to.
That's true. So when she said she's giving it up, I'm assuming she means she lets the city have it back, basically, or something to that effect. So like.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah,
look, as libertarians, we don't support rent control anyway because
no, of course not.
It's a control, price control on the marketplace by government.
Of course.
And it discourages upgrades. It discourages the property from being, kept up to speed and
and
that sort of thing. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So now she's like, oh my God, I got an eat-in kitchen. When I think of kitchen, I don't even think that you can eat in and whatever.
Isn't that normal? Isn't that the standard?
On June 1st, she signed a lease on a much bigger 3-bedroom flat in Burlington, Vermont, where she moved with her 2 Siberian Huskies. She said, after 2 weeks, I was like, is this all there is? Where is everybody?
Vermont is, it's definitely very rural. I'll have to give them that. So, like, I have to say, like,
Burlington is a city in Vermont. Though.
Oh, Burlington.
That's the capital.
Okay,
of
I'm sorry.
Vermont.
I'm thinking of like over like Brattleboro kind of area, but
Brattleboro
I guess
is also a small city.
Yeah,
they're all small cities.
It's smaller than Keene though, and this Keene's not that big. So,
the response of, is this all there is? Where is everybody? Well, number one, you moved to Vermont, and the Vermonters are way more likely to be serious about lockdowns. So there probably would have been more people on the streets of Burlington a year ago. I'm betting they're pretty empty right now, just given that, again, Vermont's in the news today for locking down and quarantining anyone from going or coming from or to New Hampshire.
There aren't probably a lot of people on the streets in New York these days.
No, there are. So there's not as many as they usually would be, but there's still a lot of people on the streets, and the reason for that has to do with the fact that if you looked at a New York apartment, they're so small you have to get out, and you can't actually be inside all the time. It would be like living in a jail cell 24 hours.
But that said, the numbers are way down. According to people that live in the cities, it's
way down. It's still, if you go on the street, it's New York City streets are still more crowded than Keene is during a normal non-COVID period.
Well, but per capita, is it? I doubt that. I
mean,
I haven't seen it myself. You've been there? You've been into
I've
New York
seen
City?
videos of like like parks and city streets and things like that, and it's still super crowded. I mean, you have to remember, New York City is like, normally on a normal day, it's literally you are stepping on people and you are touching them, right, physically. Now it's like, okay, so you're lucky if there's 6 feet in front of you, but you're still like, that's still a lot of people. I mean, when you go out, there's not going to be, you may have.
Well, that's not what I've according to city people that I've talked to now, Nick Shankin, for instance, is from Philly, but that's also a very large city.
Oh, well, Philly is nothing compared to New York. New York and Philly are on 2 different levels.
But what I'm telling you is that they're saying there's a way fewer people in the streets. A lot of these people are afraid to go outside.
I wouldn't be surprised that that's true in Philly, because Philly, the density of Philly is nothing compared to New York.
Yeah. Well, if you actually live in the city and you want to stop us from...
most of the people I know from Philly are pretty dense.
If you actually want to comment and you want to share what it's actually like, because obviously Chris and I aren't going to agree on this. I think per capita it's way down from what it was.
Oh, I didn't say no. We agree that it's way down. It's just not. It's still.
You're not saying it's a ghost. I'm not saying it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
But it's way down.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a photo I saw from San Francisco where it did look like a ghost town. So it just depends.
New York, like Manhattan, like
I said, San Francisco. I saw a photo. From
San Francisco. Oh, interesting. San Francisco is pretty populated too, but they're still not as densely populated as New York City.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And obviously, whether it's now or a decade ago, Burlington, Vermont is going to be like completely different from New York City. So it's a culture
For
shock.
sure.
For these people, and they can't handle it. And I say, good, get back to the city. It's where you belong. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, you can join us here. This is Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
He's back in Wisconsin. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The teenager suspected in the shooting deaths of 2 people during the August protest of the shooting of a black man has been extradited.
After the shooting, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse went back to his home in Illinois and surrendered to police there the next day. Video showed he tried to surrender to police in Wisconsin, who did not arrest him. Kenosha County's DA, though, charged him with intentional homicide of 2 men, attempted intentional homicide for a 3rd protester who was injured, and misdemeanor underage gun possession. His attorneys fought extradition, arguing Rittenhouse had engaged in self-defense, claiming this was a political prosecution. But plans to apparently call his mother and expert witnesses to testify on his behalf did not happen Friday, and the Lake County, Illinois judge ordered Rittenhouse sent back to Wisconsin. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
As we head into the final weekend before Election Day, both former Vice President Biden and President Trump hit 3 states today. Biden earlier in Des Moines, Iowa, promising tax reform.
91 major corporations out of the Fortune 500 didn't pay a penny in tax last year. That's tens of billions of dollars. They're going to pay their fair share.
The president in Waterford Township, Michigan.
For years, you had a president who apologized for America. Now you have a president who is standing up for America and standing up for the great people of Michigan.
President Trump won the state in 2016. Twitter announcing a change to its policy on hacked materials and has lifted a freeze it had placed on the account of the New York Post, meaning the newspaper can send tweets again after having its account locked over tweets that were sent promoting a story about Joe Biden's son Hunter. Wall Street at the close, the Dow off 157, the NASDAQ off 274. America's listening to Fox News. More anti-France protests in Arab countries over comments made by the French president.
There's been a number of anti-France protests in Muslim countries today. This was Karachi, Pakistan, where a crowd burned an effigy of the French president. There have also been rallies in Turkey, Lebanon, Bangladesh and elsewhere. The anger follows French President Emmanuel Macron's defence of the use of cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. A suspected Islamist extremist killed 3 people at a church in Nice, France, yesterday. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
A Connecticut judge has ruled Kennedy cousin Michael Skakel will not face a second trial for the 1975 murder of his Greenwich neighbor Martha Moxley. Chief State's Attorney Richard Colangelo said the case could not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Skakel, a nephew of late Senator Robert F. Kennedy, was found guilty in 2002 of killing Moxley when they were both 15. He was freed in 2013 after his conviction was overturned on appeal. A group representing the tourism industry says it faces total collapse and is calling for a different strategy to control COVID-19.
The World Travel and Tourism Council says global travel and tourism could lose 174 million jobs this year because of bans on travel between countries and quarantines. The council says prolonged restrictions could eliminate $4.7 trillion in the sector's contribution to the global economy this year, down more than 50% from a year ago. The group wants quarantines replaced with rapid, cost-effective testing. The group previously predicted 197 million job losses, but revised the number because China has managed to better contain the virus. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
Walmart reversing course again, allowing guns and ammo on its store shelves. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
Email is easy, instant, and free, and that can be real embarrassing. Email lacks the eye contact and body language you get in face-to-face conversation, or the tone of voice and other nuance you hear in a telephone conversation. Email is just words, often few words. We're all smothering in spam, so we often reply in terse fashion that's easy to misunderstand. And email doesn't cost you a postage stamp, and it lacks the deliberation time it'd take to walk to the snail mail box. So it's easy to succumb to the "oh yeah" stimulus response trap. When in doubt, don't snap back at snippy messages you get. You may have mistaken the sender's intent. And unless you're sending AOL to AOL, there's no unsend. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The dangerous winter storm Rocky is expected to pummel the Midwest throughout the day, with meteorologists predicting the blizzard will hit Kevin Hodges of Joliet, Illinois, the hardest, given the way his year's been going.
Yeah, we're stocking up on everything. I think school's going to be canceled. We're just glad we're not Kevin right now.
Joining us now is Jordan Blake in Chicago. Hello, Jordan. Just how crippling will this storm be for Kevin?
Well, we've already seen a lot of damage. Motorists in Kansas trapped in their cars on the freeway. That's nothing compared to the emotional damage Hodges can expect. Having to deal with a sick cat, frustrating new hours at work, and a confusing breakup all in the past 6 months.
You know, we're getting reports that he recently loaned $600 to a friend who has no intention of paying him back and slammed his finger in a car door last month. Does the National Weather Service have any advice for Kevin today?
Not much you can do. The sky is really vulnerable right now. Authorities are recommending that he just stay indoors and think about his mistakes.
That sounds like good advice. You know, he looks like a real sad piece of shit. Stay warm out there, Jordan.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Toll-free number tonight, 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, Chris is going to tell us about geofence warrants. I had to admit, I don't even know what that is. So we're going to find out what that is and what it means and what it's all about and why it's a bad thing. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's on the way. Plus, how do you make Halloween the lamest Halloween ever? We can tell you about that on the way as well. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
We were just telling you a couple of real-life stories, though, from the New York Post. They're interviewing New Yorkers, city people, who they thought they wanted to leave. And, it's probably a pretty good idea to get out of New York City. If you don't have to be there for work anymore and you don't want to be living on top of, 8 million people or 10 million or whatever it is these days. Because, again, there's a lot of people that come in during the day, or at least there were. Now, not so many of them are traveling because their work has now gone remote. So they've been able to leave the city. Turns out some of these city folk, they can't handle it outside of New York City. As one woman said after she moved to Burlington, Vermont with her 2 Siberian Huskies on June 1st, she said, after 2 weeks, I was like, is this all there is? Where is everybody? So her name is Maureen Cross. The story from the New York Post, she said, or not Cross, according to the story, was soon browsing Street Easy to move back to the West 80s from her new digs in the sticks and ultimately scored a duplex with a backyard. She was happy to return to the churn of fast-paced city life and soon found herself back in her old routine of visiting museums, walking through Riverside Park, and volunteering with the Wild Bird Fund. She said, I moved back right in time for the Met reopening. When I walked into the room with the Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko paintings, my cells fell back into place. Of course, not everyone can
just as soon as she was back in her cell.
Yeah. Earlier this year, it says, of course, not everyone can just pick up and move back. Earlier this year, Jen, who works for a radio station and declined to give her last name, moved out of her apartment on West 87th Street with her husband and 2 daughters, age 4 and 8. She said, when June came, I lost my mind and agreed to buy a pool that came with a home in Albany, said the 44-year-old, half jokingly. The former Upper West Sider said she, quote, misses everything, unquote, about the city, but agreed to stay put, considering her husband loves the burbs and her kids are, quote, thriving, unquote. Someday when she and her husband are empty nesters, she hopes to return.
There's a reason they call it bourbon.
She said, I just can't believe that I have to wait that long. She said others have managed to hold on to their places in the city while they hide out elsewhere. Noelle, a 32-year-old commercial real estate developer, recently decamped to Whitefish, Montana with her partner and 2 young children.
Whoa.
Thankfully, they still have the keys to their Gramercy place. She said, I miss talking to the doorman in the morning when I walk my dog. Who Noelle declined to give her last name for privacy reasons, saying further, quote, I miss going outside and being able to talk to people. Well, now, wait a minute. I've actually found that people, now I can't speak to Whitefish, Montana, but I found that people in Keene, New Hampshire are awfully friendly, and if you want to talk to folks in New Hampshire, they'll talk to you.
Yeah. This is just crazy to me. Like, if I wanted to go out and, like, socialize, like, I would think that you'd actually probably have an easier time socializing with people from more rural areas than you would from a city, given that people in a city, they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, they're notorious for not even looking at
you. They won't respond to you if you try to,
See, I haven't found that, but I spent most of my time in New York City wandering around Battery Park in the middle of the night, and
well, yeah, if they're high and they have nothing better to do, then they'll talk to you probably. But yeah, if you're just walking down the streets during the day, those people have somewhere to be.
Yeah,
Yeah. So while hiking, swimming, and sledding are nice, she says they don't hold a candle to visiting the Central Park Zoo with the kids or a date night at Casa Mono, one of her favorite neighborhood restaurants. Even her toddler can't wait to return to his cosmopolitan routine.
You know what this feels like to me, honestly, is it's not the location probably, it's more the different environment and not knowing where those places are that would be really, really great to go out on a date night. Like I remember I used to live in Flemington, New Jersey, and there was this place called Angelo's, and it was this
Italian restaurant,
this amazing Italian restaurant. And, I didn't know about it for like basically my entire life. And then it's like I find it one day and I come across it based on a recommendation from somebody. And
and you went back.
Right. But like I've never found anything like that in Keene. But that doesn't mean there's not stuff here. I just don't know about it. Right. And I think that's probably the problem that these people are having. They just don't
they moved this place. They've only been there 3 weeks, and then they're like, they don't know what to do. Well, okay, well, get to know people, find out where the places are, and go check them out. It's like.
Well, I mean, the fact is, a city like New York City, there's a lot of stuff to do, right? I mean, in normal times, I don't know if you can do anything now, but previously. Sure. You could just walk down the block in Manhattan and find a comedy club to go into, or a hookah lounge or whatever, right? Like there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're used to, then I get it. It's a culture shock. And some of these people, they can't handle it. I say, good riddance. Get out of here.
But it's funny because it's like they act like this kind of stuff doesn't happen outside of New York City, and it does.
Sure, it does. Yeah.
And it happens even in fairly small towns. Even in Keene, there are there's gambling dens, and there are lots of bars, and I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that like these people can't find these places.
Well, they're not as densely packed in other places, right?
I guess you have to drive.
There's
to
more people
the bar
living in
as
a
opposed
block.
to-
There's more people living in like a building in New York City than probably live in all of Keene, New Hampshire. Like you've seen those huge tenement houses that just like
it's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but you're not far from.
No.
It's
not an exaggeration at all.
It's not too far off.
As I understand it, the World Trade Center had its own zip code.
Yeah,
that sounds like an exaggeration, but I don't know.
No, it was actually
really?
literally true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it did.
So, the article wraps up with one more quote from one of these people. She says, "My son looked at me one day and said, 'Mommy, I miss sushi.'" Again, as though you couldn't get sushi.
Right. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These people are just, they're like, they need to get out of the house more. Like, after they move, they can't just stay wrapped up in their little house. You got to go out.
But that's just it. They're afraid. They're not going to go out because they're afraid. It reminds me, my sister moved here, or not here, she moved to Vermont earlier this year, and she moved from the city. Now, she wasn't born and raised in the city. She's just been living there for most of her adult life. But she came up to Vermont, and I caught wind that she'd moved from my parents. And I haven't seen this girl in, I don't know, a decade or more.
Wow.
And we don't have much of a relationship, but I tried to do the right thing, right? And reach out as the big brother, like, hey, I heard you're in the neighborhood now, because she was an hour and a half from Keene. She's in Vermont, southern Vermont. And I'm like, hey, why don't you come on over, bring your husband or fiance or whatever boyfriend you've got, and I'll take you out to lunch or something like that, right?
Yep.
Just to kind of catch up.
Sure.
Figured it's a good excuse, right? Because she's been in New York City and now she's in Vermont. Yep. And her response was that they're, quote, hunkered down in Vermont, and that they're not going out, and they're not going to come out here, and they're not going to go out in wherever they are.
Yep.
And they're, quote, hunkered down.
Yep.
So it's a total city person fear mentality, and I was just like, all right, well, I tried.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to persuade her or anything like that. It's fine. I really didn't want to do it in the first place. I tried to do the right thing, and she wasn't even going to leave her house in Vermont, in the woods of Vermont. So that's the kind of people we're talking about here. These people, they completely bought all the propaganda. That's one of the reasons they left in the first place, was to get away from the population center, and they're just scared to death.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see moving away, but completely boarding yourself up and not going out ever is probably a bit of an overdoing.
Absolutely.
It. Yeah.
So anyway, I say to these city people, get back to where you came from. Let's get some of these people out of these houses so we can get freedom-loving people to give them a chance.
Get back to once belong.
Exactly. All right. So 855 450 free. So Chris, what are geofence warrants? I've heard of geofencing in marketing, right? So you show up in a certain location and there's an advertisement that plays to you because the phone knows that you're in that location or whatever. That's how I've heard of geofencing.
So they basically know where people are all the time nowadays because of the cell phones, and they basically draw a circle around an area that they know a crime happened, and they say, give me every person's name who is in that area.
Let's talk about what that turns into and why it's a bad thing on the way. It's Free Talk Live.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org. News from news.bitcoin.com. The U.S. government moves to regulate cryptocurrencies after the Attorney General publishes enforcement framework. $4.8 billion still missing from the Silk Road. Some of the oldest Bitcoins were just moved. Is Satoshi Nakamoto back in the game? Publicly traded companies move more cash into Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Doodle, Stuart, Harold, and Pork Chop. Pork Chop is beautiful blonde. Coat is very thick. He's an Akita, German Shepherd, Lab, Husky mix. They did a DNA test on the 4 rescues. The first year is just a complete retraining. Lots of love, discipline, and daily upkeep. I'm a registered nurse and a personal trainer. If I eat healthy, then my dog should eat healthy. DINOVITE.com. They need the vitamins and minerals that Dynovite provides.
Dynovite is nutrition.
Harold, the Border Collie Pit Mix, has the most beautiful jet black coat. Stuart, my rat terrier, has fur now where he never had it before. Doodle, he's a poodle cocker spaniel. His energy is tremendous. The Dynovite will make your dog happy, vivacious, jump up and down, wag their tails. It will make you smile.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynovite at DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
They gently kind of hang on to it or manipulate it with their mouths. The pufferfish then releases toxins that seem to intoxicate the dolphins.
He's getting high. Apparently, there's legislation in India to consider dolphins to be non-human persons. Would dolphins be subject to arrest for getting intoxicated?
How else could they deal with this threat to the dolphins?
Obviously, there's disorderly conduct and public intoxication.
I bet they'll resist arrest too.
Yeah, because dolphins don't really have hands. They're going to fight you, and a dolphin will rape you.
Think of the money for the prison industrial complex here. I mean, they'll have to build whole new underwater prisons for the dolphins. This could be big.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. Also, we have our new chat server, the Matrix chat server. Somebody was just asking in our Twitch chat room what happened to the Discord. Well, they shut it down. So we went independent and we installed the Matrix chat server, which means that No one can stop us now. You can join.
We're on a mission from God.
You can join it over at chat.lrn.fm. That's not the actual server URL. It's just a web page that'll give you the instructions on how to get in. So check that out at chat.lrn.fm. Chris, you were just getting into telling us about these geofence warrants. Geofencing being a technology that sort of identifies where you are, and certain apps, for instance, that can use this information might feed you advertisements. That's one of the more common ways you'll hear geofencing talked about. It's where I've heard it discussed. But apparently the cops are using it too for warrants.
Yeah, so it's this crazy thing. So they're supposed to usually get like a warrant to, search a thing,
a specific thing.
specific
place for a specific
thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of like a reverse warrant. They know where a crime happened. They don't know who to search. So they basically go on a fishing expedition by subpoenaing records from
the phone companies.
In this case, Google, I believe it is. But,
okay.
But yeah, because Google is tracking
presumably Apple
more
too?
detail, probably more detail, and so it's not necessarily the case that they will get everybody's information, because it does require you to be like using Google services. But almost all Android phones are, unless you're like install something else. So theoretically, you could have somebody also without a phone. So just because you have a geo warrant or whatever doesn't, or geofence warrant, it doesn't mean that you're going to have all the people who were near a crime scene.
Any criminal who's smart enough to leave their phone at home when they commit their crime will have a distinct advantage.
Right, exactly. And so
so many people are amazed when I leave my phone at home too.
Right? And so they then have a list of what they call suspects, basically, based on this geo warrant. Or geofence warrant. I keep saying that wrong. So this is a story from Zero Hedge, I guess. Google geofence warrants keep locking up innocent people who were in proximity of a crime scene. Months ago, we detailed an incredibly scary and Orwellian tool in the local police force arsenal known as a geofence warrant. As described at the time, it's essentially a virtual dragnet over crime scenes where police request to sweep up Google location data drawn from users' GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cellular connections from anyone who happened to be near a crime scene. So can you just imagine maybe in the morning you go for a jog, jogging by a pizza place that's robbed, and all of a sudden now you're being accused suspect of committing a crime, of robbing the joint
all the time.
GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cellular connections from everyone who happened to be near a crime scene. From this blanket of surveillance law enforcement, then it tried to figure out which phones may have tied to suspects or possible witnesses. Already, this type of blanket surveillance warrant, which works as a kind of guilt by proximity at the time a crime occurred, has been used by police to arrest what turned out to be innocent bystanders who were suddenly surprised to find themselves prime suspects. Yeah, because these cops are they're not the brightest tools in the shed. I mean, they basically say, okay, well, you were near the crime scene, therefore you must have somehow.
Well, you were near the crime scene, and you're black, so therefore.
Yeah, and so it's this tool that's basically used to find a suspect that they can then later get, a prosecutor can later get a conviction on based on merely being near what was a crime scene that may or may not actually be the person involved who committed the crime.
And we shouldn't be surprised that that's the direction the police will take things, because they are, in a lot of cases, corrupt, and they are, lazy. But in theory, this isn't a bad concept necessarily. Like the concept of, hey, something bad happened, it would help us to talk to the people who were nearby and find out if they saw anything. Like, on its own, there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
In theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there generally is.
I think the issue comes down to that they're not going to a business owner and being like, oh, hey, can we look at your footage from your security camera? The problem is that people are unknowingly, basically being caught up in these, police investigations that, without there being any kind of warrant or anybody, volunteering.
Well, there was a warrant.
Well, okay,
right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess
it's a geofence warrant,
right? But they call it a warrant, but it's not a specific. It's not a warrant as it would be defined in the Constitution, right? It's not a specific place or thing to be searched. It is them just taking a circle, drawing it around a map, and then searching everybody's data, right?
Well, they are specifically asking for a specific set of data from one particular place.
But from a place that just happens to have everybody's data.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little bit misleading because they're getting everybody's data, right? So anybody in that area, they're getting their phone information, their their host names of their phone, their phone number, their addresses.
Whereas the way it's supposed to work is in order to invade your data, they're supposed to have specific evidence beforehand that you actually did it. And being present in the neighborhood does not count as probable cause.
I get that, but in this case, their argument is not that it's your data, that it's Google's data.
Well, so they say. That's what Google thinks too.
Yeah.
That's why Google and government get along like peas in a pod.
That's like saying you don't own your phone because there's a license agreement attached to it. I mean, come on.
Well, stop using Google phones for one thing.
I don't use
Google.
Google. I don't use Google's Google's proprietary software that has this stuff in it.
Yeah.
But
well, moving to Apple isn't going to solve your problem.
No, that's also true.
What you want to do, if anything, would be get a tablet instead of a phone, learn to change your MAC address, and then put Linux on it. And when
and you're now way out of the bailiwick of the average phone user.
Well, yeah, but you're not supposed to be average.
Yeah.
The average person is an idiot.
Well, I don't disagree with that. Generally speaking, the average person is probably an idiot, but the idiot is also the one investigating me. So, for a crime that I didn't commit.
Yeah.
So,
look, I'm not defending what they're doing here. I'm just kind of making whatever the legal argument might be on their side. And that is that we're not invading your privacy. You gave up your privacy by using Google and then gave them your information. We're just asking Google for
most
it.
people aren't even aware of.
That's happening?
Right. Or even, I don't even know. Does it actually ever tell you that they're using? Is there even anything that you agree to?
Yeah, there's an opt-in for location data, but they're still collecting it anyway, whether you opt into it or not.
Well, I think that's a good question.
The cell phone company needs to know where you are in order to serve you with their signal.
Right. So if it was okay, so let's back up a moment. So the geofence warrant in this particular case is in relation to Google. However, they could do something similar
with the cell phone
with the cell phone tower data.
The
cell phone tower data is less accurate though.
Then that would also get you the flip phone users too, instead of there still are some flip phoners out there. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We can continue this discussion. You can also bring up whatever is on your mind. Geofence warrants could be causing some serious problems out there with corrupt cops running things. This is Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for everyone to use it in everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that's as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more, and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, You can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait on account. Now. Wait a minute. Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Live video of our key New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. All you got to do, dial in toll-free, take control of the airwaves here. This is Free Talk Live. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. It's Ian, Nobody, and Chris in the studio here tonight. And I do want to say thanks to Bitcoin.com. Great place to go and get started in the world of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. You can go and learn the basics over at Bitcoin.com. Just click on the Getting Started or Get Started area there. You can watch a quick video, maybe 2 or 3 minutes out of your life, and you will understand the basic concepts about Bitcoin and crypto. And you can dig in further, of course, if you want. Plus, they've got a great news site, which includes all kinds of information about the latest goings-on around the planet in the world of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and cryptocurrency. So go and get started at Bitcoin.com. Chris, you're sharing with us a story, and where was it from again?
Zero Hedge?
Zero Hedge. All right. Talking about the geofencing warrants that have been resulting in police charging the wrong people because, well,
they're easier targets.
And cops are bureaucrats.
There's
they're lazy.
evidence. There's evidence against them because they were at the same or in the same area.
Well, of course, that's not actually evidence. That's just circumstance.
It is circumstance. Yeah. Well, that's what they'll call circumstantial evidence, and somehow circumstantial evidence is good enough to get a conviction.
Well, it's good enough to get somebody scared to take a guilty plea. That's what it is.
I've seen people convicted on circumstantial evidence.
Well, I used to know a mayor who used to say, "Well, you can fool all of the people some of the time. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and generally that's sufficient."
Yeah. So, I mean, they're basically using it to manipulate people into thinking, people are committing crimes when they're not the people who have actually committed the crime. That may have actually happened, but just not the same.
And again, that's because a lot of cops are corrupt. A lot of them are lazy, and so you get lazy, corrupt people and give them power. And then they're going to use this. They're going to go up and they're going to get this geofence warrant, which, again, for those just tuning in, is a way for them to go to Google and say, this store here got robbed. Give us the ID of anybody that happened to be in the vicinity of a mile, half a mile or a mile radius around the store at that time.
They're literally looking for people to frame, basically. And the crazy thing about this is there will even be people who have been, business owners who have been robbed, or whoever was there at the time, like the cashier or whatever, and they will say no, that's not the person, and yet they will still continue to prosecute these people.
Really?
Yeah. That's how this is the kind of thing that happens all the time. This is a crazy thing. So let me read this. So this is a particular instance of this happening in 2018. 23-year-old George Maloney was arrested and jailed for 6 days on suspicion of killing another man. Police in Avondale,
when did he kill the first
Arizona,
one?
about 20 miles from Phoenix, held Molina for questioning. According to a police report, officers told him they knew 100%, without a doubt, his phone was at the scene of the crime based on the data from Google. So basically, they were trying to imply that they knew he did it. And it's not. I don't know. I haven't read further yet, but I suspect they probably actually outright told him they knew he did it at some point here.
Well, the cops are allowed to lie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yep.
They could say something like that to try to get somebody
in order to plead guilty. Yeah. And they do it all the time. In fact, Molina wasn't there. He'd simply lent an old phone to the man police later arrested. The phone was still signed into his
This was
Google
after this
account.
guy was arrested and put in jail for 6 days.
Yeah. The information about Molina's phone came from a geofence warrant, a relatively new and increasingly popular investigative technique police use to track suspects' locations, which is anybody in the area. Traditionally, police identify a suspect, then issue a warrant to search the person's home or belongings.
Right.
So this is not even despite the fact that they're calling it a warrant, it's misleading because it's not a specific thing and a specific place and thing to be searched.
But it is.
It's not. They don't have that information yet. What they're doing is they're going on a fishing expedition to obtain the information.
I know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, from their perspective, it is a specific place and thing. The specific place is Google's server, and the thing that they want is the data about this particular location. This area where the crime was committed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's going to hold up.
There's no reason to believe that anybody, the data, the people that the information that they're attempting to get will lead to, evidence of a crime.
I think there's a very strong reason to believe that.
Oh,
a crime was committed at that location.
No, it's not.
But
it's
the problem is they don't
region.
have a specific suspect. And the idea is before they go digging through your data, they're supposed
not
to
your
have
data.
Probable cause.
It's not your
that
data.
You did it. Yes, it is.
No, it's not. You gave it to Google. Just in the same way that when you upload a photograph to Facebook, it is not your photo anymore. You still have the right to use it, but Facebook also was granted the right to use it in any way they want to.
So
if you upload a photo to Facebook or Twitter or wherever, right? One of these big corporations, their agreement, the terms of service usually says they get a non-exclusive right to use your data in whatever way they want to use it, whether that's putting it in their advertisements or whatever, turning it over to the police. They can do what they want with it.
Sure.
Don't quote the old data to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
I'm not debating. I don't disagree in some respect with that argument. I'm still not convinced that the police have sufficient they can't just demand. Okay, so I'm going to give you another example. They can't just demand that Google hand over their entire database of all customers, right?
No.
And
the judge probably wouldn't allow that warrant if that's what they were asking for. But because they're being somewhat specific in that they only want data from this particular area, a judge may only allow a mile radius. He may not allow 10 miles.
I mean,
so if you know that that you're if you think that your suspect lives within a mile of where the crime gets committed, why not just search every house in the neighborhood?
that's the kind of jump that you would expect these people to make when they want to go to the next level of tyranny.
For them doing what they're doing is a jump.
Yeah.
The founding fathers talked about your data. It was well known that your data was sometimes in the hands of other people, but it meant that they couldn't go shake down your banker too to find out what kind of business
they do that crap all the time.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think
they do now.
They do, and
they didn't.
They certainly didn't in the past.
The British
and they do
did.
now. And I think the problem here is if you start taking a look at what they're actually doing, and in modern in modern times here in like the last 20 years, you'll notice that they will do things like go around to every person in a neighborhood, they'll knock on the doors and force them to provide DNA, for example, in order to catch a murderer or something of that nature. Like they do.
I don't think they can force them to do that.
In some places they can, yeah. And I'm talking about Western countries, like
you're not talking
like
about the
China.
United States.
Not necessarily. I don't know about the United States.
I don't think you can call China a Western country.
No. I'm saying not China.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't.
But you're not talking
about
the United States.
I can think of at least one instance in like Denmark, maybe, or someplace like that. Maybe yes. It's definitely like a Western kind of country.
There's something rotten in the state of Denmark.
Someplace where there's some level of supposed protection for people, and it's happening in the United States. That sort of thing too, and this is just an example of it, just as the DNA. And the question is, at what? Okay, so you're okay with maybe a block, right?
I'm not saying I'm okay with it.
I understand. Okay, so
I'm just saying that I'm taking the perspective from their side and trying to explain why it's probably going to be seen as legal.
At what point? Where does it end? Is it?
That's a good
block?
question. It's arbitrary.
Is it a mile?
Is it totally arbitrary?
And then what happens if there's a building of 3,000 people in it, and you want a block, right? So now all of a sudden you have data on who God knows how many people.
That's right.
That you can pick from in order to frame effectively.
Yeah, it's a good sign that it's not probable cause when you realize that that for every one guilty person, you've also violated the privacy of 2,999 innocent people.
Right.
That doesn't constitute probable cause.
Well, what do you think the judge is going to think?
I think the judge is a crook.
I know.
Should be taken out and hung.
I suspect as it goes up to the courts, I think it'll eventually be thrown out. And
I think so.
I think so.
All right, more coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts with us on geofence warrants.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joel Wallach, veterinarian and naturopathic physician. The Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy with an important message. Take charge of your health. Do not continue to blindly follow the system that has failed us all. I appreciate GCN listeners because you're open-minded and intelligent. If our system is so great, why is it that the United States, the USA, ranks nearly 60th worldwide in longevity and #1 in obesity? All the while we spend more money than all the other countries combined annually on unnecessary healthcare procedures and toxic drugs. It doesn't take much to get on track. Not with the government or pharmaceutical companies, but rather you in control of your own health with a basic understanding of nutrition and supplementation. FDI Longevity has the finest quality health, sports, and energy supplements available. GCN listeners are invited to join our team of people who want to stay healthy well into old age. We are currently looking for specialists to represent FDI Longevity and Save America. To buy products at wholesale prices or join our business team, go to GCNteam.com. That's GCNteam.com. Support GCN. Get healthy.
At 58 years of age, I noticed a dramatic energy decline. After a 5-day work week, I had to use one of my days off to rest and recover. I also had cut my gym visits down from 3 times a week to once a week. Since I began using Green Meadow Whey, my energy level has greatly improved. I no longer have to take a day to recover. I have increased my gym visits back to 3 times a week. I'm actually more active and feeling better now than I have in the last 5 years. It's so nice to wake up in the morning feeling good and ready to go. Before trying Green Meadow Whey, I must have tried every whey protein product on the market, and every one of them caused me bloating, gas, and constipation. I've had no such issues with Green Meadow Whey. In fact, I'm sleeping better, my vision has improved, and surprisingly, my emotional and mental state has also improved. I love what Green Meadow Whey has done for me.
Green Meadow Whey comes from milk derived from grass-pastured cows. To order, call 888-988-3325 or visit greenmeadowwhey.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And also, we've got a chat server. It's our Matrix chat. You can go to chat.lrn.fm and learn how to log in there. By the way, I want to say thanks to The Free Man, who is a Free Talk Live Silver Amplifier. The Free Man contributing $5 a month to the Free Talk Live AMP program at amp.freetalklive.com. It's a great way to get behind what we do here. If you like us talking about the ideas of freedom, probably really the only place you can hear about those ideas in any consistent way on the radio, then please join the AMP program like the Free Man did over at amp.freetalklive.com. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
We're talking about geofence warrants. And Chris, was there more from your story?
Oh yeah. Let me read
because I found a court case, so we can get into that in a bit.
As soon as I read this last. Yeah. I mean, there's more to the story, but let me do this one last paragraph here, because this is what people need to be. This is why people need to be freaking out about this. What I had suspected earlier did turn out to be correct, and
about the police lying to somebody,
about the police basically brainwashing people into pleading guilty, or taking a plea deal.
It's not a brainwash; it's an intimidation tactic.
Yeah, intimidation tactic.
Well, sometimes it goes so far that into the territory of brainwashing that people actually confess to things
they didn't do.
They think they did it, but they didn't do it.
And they believe that they did it.
I don't know if brainwashing is totally the wrong word, because people
that's
are convinced.
Totally the right word if you've been convinced of
something. If they believe they did it, then I would agree with you. If they're doing it just because they think it'll be the easiest way out of a situation, that's different.
That's not brainwashing.
Right.
That's
just intimidation.
Well, the problem is that there's certain tactics that are not supposed to use anymore in a lot of places, because it is effective. They effectively hold people there until they are convinced that they did a crime that they didn't actually commit, and that's how they get the guilty pleas, not because they believe they ever actually did it. Well, originally anyway. Mm-hmm. All right. I told George that we knew 100% without a doubt that his phone was at the shooting scene, the police report on Knight's murder states. George gasped and said, "What? This feels like a freaking nightmare." Melina began to cry, saying,
well, wait a minute. In that case, that was true, right? His phone was at the scene.
It was manipulative, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is insane. As it turns out, the police did not know 100% without a doubt that his phone was at the shooting scene. So it actually wasn't the case even that they knew with 100% that his phone was at the scene, let alone him. So
But they told him nonetheless that they knew
Well,
he did it.
in this case, wasn't this a case where he loaned the phone to the guy who ended up committing the murder?
Yes, that's correct.
So his phone probably was at the scene. It just wasn't held by him.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe it was just written wrong.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure this is
because that's how they found out about him in the first place. They went arrested him. They put him in jail for 6 days, and then he was like, "Well, yeah, but it wasn't even I wasn't there. It was my buddy."
Who would lend their phone to somebody? My God. I mean,
people do.
I might if I factory reset.
I mean, oftentimes, like, one person will own the phones will be in one person's name, but their family members or kids or a partner or whatever, and that's actually
business.
That's actually businesses too. I mean, that's actually very common. That's super common. Like probably almost 95% of like all plans, it's in one person's name, but it's not really it's not really there. Not all of the phones that are a part of that plan are that person's.
Hold that thought, Chris. I'm going to try to get Gene, the Christian anarchist, on the line here. Gene, are you with us?
I'm here.
We got you. What's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I was going to talk about the coming riots.
Oh, really? What's going on?
Oh, the people are. I think that Trump is pretty much going to win this election, and after he does, there's going to be a lot of looting and burning, and people are going to be angry. It's going to be a mess. I've never seen this kind of division before in my lifetime. Even in the 60s, it was nowhere near like this.
And I don't think it makes any difference whether it's Trump, because if Trump wins, the Biden people are going to think they were cheated, and if Biden wins, the Trump people are going to think they were cheated.
But do you think they're going to riot? I mean, historically, it seems like more
they
the
might
left.
well revolt. They've got guns, unlike the liberals. How long is the Civil War going to last? 20 minutes?
But wait a minute. I mean, but do you think it's just this election that's going to push people into a revolt? I mean, that's historically not happened in this country.
Historically, revolts happened when they haven't happened for way too long. Eventually, if you keep turning up the pressure, sooner or later, something's going to blow.
True.
Yeah, you back a dog into a corner, they'll eventually bite.
No doubt. But I don't know if this is going to do it. We'll see, I guess.
I don't know either, but it's quite possible.
I'm definitely along your the thought pattern here, Ian.
The right-wingers tend to be well-behaved compared to the people on the left.
I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
That's because if and when they boogaloo, you're going to see something new. Because unlike we're talking about organized action by people, many of whom are veterans, and a lot of people are going to die very quickly, and then they're going to have a hard time dealing with all the people who surrender.
It's not going to be so much organized, because what'll happen, you remember when we've had a few lone gunmen go out there and take out some people, and I would think that if Biden wins, we're probably going to see a lot more of that. But if Trump wins, and I'm pretty sure that he will, I think that we're going to see the left rioting and burning the cities. Already the cities are boarding up.
That seems like a gimme. I mean, that seems like it's going to definitely
There's a difference
happen.
between rioting and a civil war, and for a civil war, you need actual, organization, and I don't think that's there.
So do you think they're actually rigging it for Trump, or do you think they're going to fail to rig it?
They cheat every time. We've seen voting fraud since forever. As long as there's been a vote, there's been voter fraud, and the voter fraud has been ramping up. It's getting a little worse each election, but I don't think that they have enough voter fraud to overturn the right-wing rage that's going on right now and the bounce back from these riots earlier in the year. And I think the left is going to be shocked on election night, and they're going to be that much more angry. So yes, it doesn't look good to me.
I got this feeling that the more the left goes, the more radical the left gets, the more pushback they're getting from the right or from the people who are in the middle. And you're going to end up with another Trump win, basically, because of it.
Yeah, and
I think we're also going to see some some arrests being made, because the left people aren't very smart. They're online talking about how they're going to shut down all the major cities on November 4th.
They're already shut down.
But talk is cheap, and actual doing, actual action seems more
what are they going to shut down? People aren't even going to work.
But these are supposed leaders. These are supposed leaders getting online saying, we're going to send our group to do this.
When you say leaders, do you mean like an Antifa leader, or do you mean like a political leader? Different
DNC type groups, the radicalized groups.
Okay.
They're saying, and the leaders of those groups are saying, well, we're going to send these guys here, and we're going to do that, and we're going to shut down DC. And the FBI
but they said
is
that. Hold on.
watching
They
all
said
that.
Hold on, I got to interrupt you here. They said on September 17th, there was this the group that actually put together Occupy. They're called Adbusters. They had started promoting that they were going to occupy across the street from the White House for 50 days, running right up until the election. That never happened.
Yeah, talk is cheap, man.
They didn't do it. I mean, I figured they'd do it.
They won't.
It's the Occupy people. Like, these guys have a history. I figured they were going to do this. They didn't even try it. It's from what I understand. There was no news. I looked on their website. I looked on their Twitter. I looked for some kind of evidence that somebody gathered in that spot. They didn't even attempt it. It just disappeared.
According to some of the Boogaloo boys that I talked to, they a lot of them were intercepted on their way, and so
in DC,
the leaders didn't show up at the staging areas.
Interesting. Who intercepted them?
FBI.
And I hear these reports every so often. There was a report I heard yesterday somewhere. I'm not even sure where it was. They arrested some people in a van, and they said there were explosives, and they listed the explosives. And it's the same BS every single time. A propane bottle, some torches, and they're saying these are explosives. Well, any construction worker driving down the road in their van is going to have those kind of things in their van. So all they got to do is pull over somebody who's a construction worker and rip his truck apart and say, oh, look, he's got this weapon and that weapon, and these are terrorists. And
so you think it's going to be a pretty dark post-election season? I think most people probably agree with you on this, Gene. I mean, I think a lot of people are expecting there to be some pretty crazy stuff.
Definitely think a lot of people agree with him on this.
That goes down.
I think it's absurd. I think it's unlikely, but
wait, you think it's unlikely that Antifa and the lefties are going to get into the streets if Trump wins?
No. I think it's unlikely to be a civil war. I think some rioting is not.
I think all the calls for civil war are overblown.
Is more likely if Biden wins.
Thank you, Gene, for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. But that said, this whole civil war concept is getting a lot of media, so there's definitely some propagation for this idea out there, and that could be dangerous. There's more coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
On a multidimensional probe, the Syscov Trans-Temporal Vehicle Clio discovers 2 entire universes have been annihilated in a massive time-traveling accident. Robert Kaminsky and his crew race home with the news, only to learn their own universe is next. To pull off the impossible, they'll have to embrace the unpalatable by placing their trust in the admin, Syscov's xenophobic sister universe, and the same people who tried to kill them all only months before. The Valkyrie Protocol by David Weber and Jacob Hollow. Available October 6th, wherever books are sold. Visit Bainbooks at Bain.com for more.
Divi's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divi's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to diviproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from diviproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. diviproject.org. DIVI project.org.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Closer than before. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. With just 4 days until Election Day, a new Fox News poll takes a look at the state of the presidential race.
The latest Fox News poll puts Joe Biden ahead of President Trump by 8 points, 52 to 44%. That is 2 points tighter than things were in early October, though not as tight as they were in September. The president is preferred by white men, rural voters, and evangelicals, but by smaller margins than in 2016. Biden is favored most notably by suburban women, black voters, and those under 30. Seniors favor Biden by 10 points. Independents go with Biden by 22 points. Now, just 57% of Biden supporters said they were voting for their candidate. 41% said they were voting against the president, but 80% of Trump supporters said they were voting for their candidate. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
The focus for both candidates in the final days before Election Day. The upper Midwest today. Earlier, the president was in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Get your friends, get your family, get your neighbors, and get out to vote. Got to get out to vote. On November 3rd or previous to November 3rd, just get out to vote. Whichever way you want to do it. Whatever way you want to do it, you got to get out to vote.
Biden in St. Paul, Minnesota.
100 million Americans will lose protections for pre-existing conditions. Complications from COVID-19 will be the next pre-existing condition, allowing insurers to jack up your premiums or deny your coverage.
Biden's next stop, Milwaukee. The U.S. has now surpassed 9 million cases of COVID-19, according to Johns Hopkins University, as infections rise in 47 states. A new study from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention finds the virus can spread more extensively in households than previous research suggests, and it finds kids can transmit it at about the same rate as adults. Researchers say that it shows how important it is for people to isolate themselves. America's listening to Fox News. The families of a man killed and a woman injured in a police shooting in suburban Chicago have filed a federal lawsuit.
The suit accuses negligence by the city of Waukegan. Its police chief and 2 officers involved in a traffic stop last week, where body cam video shows 20-year-old Tafara Williams fleeing as officers try to arrest her boyfriend, 19-year-old Marcellus Stinnett.
Because you got a warrant. You didn't come out. Hey. And they just ran me over.
The chase ended in a crash where police say Williams reversed her car toward a police officer who opened fire. Williams was hurt, Stinnett killed. One officer has been fired in part for not having his body camera on. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
On the final day of early voting, Texas has broken another record.
This isn't Texas's first rodeo for early voting, but it is the state's largest turnout. More than 9 million people have voted, surpassing the total number of Texans who cast ballots 4 years ago. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo stopped by a 24-hour early voting site.
Incredible participation from young people. And so, there's always more. There's room for growth. But we are seeing them participate at higher rates than before.
President Trump won Texas by 9 points in 2016. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
U.S. consumers increased their spending by 1.4% in September, a slightly better gain than expected, but still well below the big increases seen in May and June, adding to concerns that Americans remain cautious with the pandemic resurging across the country. The September gain marked the 5th straight monthly increase in consumer spending, the primary driver of the U.S. economy. Wall Street at the close, another day of losses. The Dow off 157, the NASDAQ minus 271, the S&P off 40 points. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
For over 8 years, Gary Lightman has been the chief executive officer and guiding force behind tech company MediaMerge Incorporated. Lightman spoke to reporters this week about working his way up from his humble beginnings as a son of the previous CEO.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would someday be the CEO of my dad's company, I would have said, absolutely not. I mean, it feels like just yesterday that I started off as a senior executive at this company, and now I'm in charge of the place.
Lightman told reporters that he credits his continued success in business to a number of crucial moments in his career, including getting hired by his father's retirement, and a few lucky breaks in between.
I'm not going to lie to you, it was a lot of work. I was here for nearly 8 hours every day. Someone clearly saw my efforts and took notice. You know, a lot of young people ask for my advice, and I always say the same thing. Work hard, and it will lead to bigger and better things. That's what I tell my kids.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can take control of the airwaves. All you got to do, dial on in here, toll free. Our number, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Or you can do like Gene the Christian Anarchist did there in the last hour and call in through our Matrix chat server, and you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. It's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
Should you wish to get on that Matrix server, just go to chat.lrn.fm. You'll get a webpage that'll give you the instructions on how to get in there. That's chat.lrn.fm. We've been talking about geofence warrants. Chris, you brought up a story from, was it Zero Hedge, I think?
Yeah, Zero Hedge.
About this, and we were sort of speaking about what's the legality of these warrants, and I was sort of taking the devil's advocate side of, well, the state's going to argue that this is a specific thing they're looking for in a specific place, meaning Google's servers and information about a certain area. But it turns out that it actually did go to court this year.
Yeah.
So actually, there sounds like there's at least 2 cases.
So what are they saying? What are these? EFF is it?
So EFF put out a press release on July 2nd of this year in regards to a case out of San Francisco that was supposed to be heard on August 25th. So I looked a little further, and I found a news piece from August 25th, but it's not about the San Francisco case. So I think there's more than one case that's in play right now. So
makes sense.
Here is the actual ruling, not on the San Francisco case, but on a different case.
Right.
This from a federal court, so it's not even a court of appeals. It's still lower level federal court.
That's kind of what I figured. Well, it's usually a good sign if it's being thrown out a low
federal
level
court. Yeah. So the story here from BloombergLaw.com: a geofence warrant application submitted by officers investigating the theft of prescription drugs to obtain mobile phone location information from Google was denied as too broad by a federal district court in Illinois. In what is said is the first federal court case analyzing the Fourth Amendment requirements for geofence warrants, the opinion by Judge Gabriel A. Fuentes of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois said the application cast too broad a net to survive scrutiny. A geofence is a virtual fence around a particular location for particular times. Because the government knows that an unknown suspect entered 2 locations to receive and ship stolen medication, the investigators want Google to disclose anonymized data about cell phones within the specific areas for a 45-minute time period on specific dates so they can analyze the data and identify the suspect. Now, here's what I want to know. How does anonymized data allow them to
It's not really anonymized. So it's pseudo-anonymized is really what you would say. So you don't know, looking at just one set of data, who it is maybe, but by looking at 2 sets of data, then you can match it up and figure it out.
But the answer is, say you have a token for each possible suspect. You figure out which token represents the person you think is a suspect, and then you go back to the bank and you say, or you go back to the phone company and you say, okay, who was this token?
Gotcha. So they use the anonymized data to say, oh, well, this phone, whichever one this is, crossed into the area of the crime directly, so we want to know who this person is. So they're arguing that because it's anonymous, therefore it should be legal.
That doesn't mean they don't have your data. That's the problem, though. They're
still
saying invading everybody else's privacy in the process, even if it's anonymized.
Well, they don't know who you are purportedly.
They don't, but they still have your data. It's still like
they have data about you without knowing that it's you.
Right, but
then they can get information about you later.
Yeah, so just because you have something that's private of mine, just because you don't know who I am doesn't necessarily mean it's not violating my privacy. Just because you have a picture of somebody who is doing, some sort of undress and you don't have their name doesn't mean that it's not invading that person's privacy if assuming it's a government, right?
So this is the third time that investigators have applied for the geofence warrants at the court. Each of the previous applications were too broad, and although the government continues to narrow the scope, the application here is similarly broad. So this judge apparently has denied this now 3 times in a row, at least as
Which is kind of
August.
surprising because the judges have been like, oh, it's okay to search an entire apartment complex with 20 different apartments in it. And they've allowed those cases to be like, oh, yeah, it was, it was okay because a judge signed off on it, even though 20 different apartments, like that's not a specific place and thing to be searched.
The application seeks the location histories of all individuals who entered the fence without probable cause to justify accessing that information for most of them, said the court. Although the information will be anonymized, the warrant also puts no limitation on the government's discretion about how it will go about selecting a suspect, it said. The government's qualifying language in the application that it will only use the information that, quote, identifies individuals who committed or witnessed the offense, unquote, spells out no procedure for Google to figure out who those people are, said the court. Although geofence warrants aren't categorically unconstitutional, their applications must comply with the constitutional protections of individual privacy. According to the court, the government simply can't rummage where it pleases to see what turns up. So in this case, it was denied.
Yeah, it's like saying, somebody accessed, and this is the crazy thing. The courts have routinely allowed, abuse of the whole warrant system by saying, okay, well, there's a router at this location, internet access, and because the wireless they had an open wireless, so there was no password on it. Well, some neighbor could have accessed it. So now all of a sudden, not only do they get to search the house that has the wireless access point, but also the neighbor's house.
That's scary.
Yeah, and this has been like okayed by judges. It's really disturbing.
So, and then I do have the piece from the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They looked at this earlier this year and announced, Jennifer Lynch writing for them, should police be able to force Google to turn over identifying information on every phone within a certain geographic area, potentially hundreds or thousands of devices, just because a crime occurred there? We don't think so. As we argued in an amicus brief filed recently in People versus Dawes, a case in San Francisco Superior Court, so this is a California local case.
Okay.
This is a general search and violates the Fourth Amendment. The court scheduled to hear the defendant's motion to quash August 25th, but I will have to look and see if there's been an update on this. In 2018, San Francisco police were trying to figure out who robbed a house in a residential neighborhood. They didn't have a suspect. Instead of using traditional investigative techniques to find the culprit, they turned to a new surveillance tool, the geofence warrant that we've talked about. Unlike traditional warrants, the geofence warrant doesn't start with a suspect or even an account. It instead directs Google to search a vast database of location history to identify every device for which Google has data that happened to be in the area around the time of the crime, regardless of whether the owner has any link at all to the crime under investigation. Because these investigations start with a location before they have a suspect, they're also frequently called reverse location searches. Google has a particularly robust, detailed, and searchable collection of location data, and to our knowledge, it's the only company that complies with these warrants. Much of what we know about the data Google provides to police and how it provides that data comes from a declaration and amicus brief that Google filed in a Virginia case called U.S. versus Chattree. According to Google, the data it provides to police comes from its database called Sensor Vault, where it stores location data for one of its services called Location History. And you can look this up, by the way, for yourself if you have a Google device.
And that's turned on by default. If you've ever retraced your steps to find your phone, that's what you use.
Google collects this history data from different sources, including Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, cell networks, makes it much more precise than just the cellular location information, and allows Google to estimate a device's location within 20 meters or less.
Yeah, so this is very precise data that they collect on you. You can turn this off on your phone. What's
supposedly?
Maybe.
Yeah, this is
you can turn off. They're telling you what it
certainly
says in order to so you can get your phone back, though.
I'm pretty confident that when you turn it off, it actually is turned off in this case. But
Okay.
it may be turned on again, by Google or something else of that nature. Depending on what else it asks you or prompts you or updates or something. But
Well, Google says about 1/3 of its users have opted in to location history.
that's actually telling because it means that 2/3 haven't, right? So,
Yes.
so people are turning it off, and
That's kinda good.
Yeah, that's good. But this also is telling that that also means that they've even less likely, or it's even less likely that they will find the right person who committed a crime, right? Because now it's even. Before you may have said, well, if everybody has this on, except for like the few people running Lineage OS, then all of a sudden it says there's a good chance that you will find the suspect. On the other hand, if nobody has it on, or almost nobody has it on, then the chances of you finding the suspect is unlikely, and therefore the warrant shouldn't be issued for that reason.
Coming up, the EFF shares how police have been increasingly seeking this access over the recent years. The numbers have been going up pretty dramatically of these warrants. Google states it's received 1,500% more.
Oh, yeah.
In 2018 than 2017. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Pork chop, his coat is very thick. He's an Akita, German Shepherd, Lab, Husky mix. Harold, the Border Collie pit mix, has the most beautiful jet black coat. Stuart, my rat terrier, has fur now where he never had it before. DINOVITE.com. Dinovite will give them a beautiful, lustrous coat. It will make you smile.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
News from news.bitcoin.com. The U.S. government moves to regulate cryptocurrencies after the Attorney General publishes enforcement framework. $4.8 billion still missing from the Silk Road. Some of the oldest Bitcoins were just moved. Is Satoshi Nakamoto back in the game? Publicly traded companies move more cash into Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com. Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Dial in. Bring up what you want here. Toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Also, you can join us on our chat server over at chat.lrn.fm. And that's where you get the instructions on how to get connected there. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
Coming up in the summer of 2021, Fork Fest 2021 will be happening. We were actually, Chris, you and I were just talking with some of the visitors in town tonight.
Oh, yeah.
About Fork Fest. A lot of people haven't heard about it yet. So
that's hard to believe.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? You're joking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because there's still a lot of libertarians that don't even know about the migration to New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's kind of a secret almost.
It got to be a small minority of libertarians, to be honest.
That know about it, you mean?
Yeah.
So this is a great excuse for you to come on up and celebrate Independence Day and being around other freedom-loving people here in the Shire. It's going to be June 28th through July 4th at Rogers Campground, the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's decentralized, which means that there's no bureaucracy, there's no organization, there's no ticket price. It's just to get your RV site, get your campground, your camp spot, or your motel room there at Rogers. There's different options for you. And then do whatever you want, hang out with other freedom-loving people, or maybe create a thing for other people to do. Maybe put together a poker game, or I don't know, a musical performance, a play, or whatever you want to do. It's up to you. You create it. Everything that happens there, the food that people are making, it's all decentralized. It's up to each individual what to bring to the table. So head over to forkfest.party to learn more about it, and mark your calendar June 28th through July 4th, 2021. It's definitely not too late to get in touch with Rogers Campground. They are probably shut down mostly for the winter, but they do still check, I believe, messages and emails. So you should still be able to register your room or register your campsite, etc. Forkfest.party. We are talking about these geofencing warrants, and the Electronic Frontier Foundation is against them. In fact, they filed an amicus brief in a case out of San Francisco, People versus Dawes. This is in San Francisco Superior Court, where the police have been snatching up large amounts of data from Google about where you are. If you happen to be in the vicinity of a crime, then you might be a suspect. And so they're asking a lot for these police departments are increasingly asking for this information. According to the Electronic Frontier Foundation story here, they say that over the last few years, the warrants reportedly date back to 2016, but Google states it received 1,500% more geofence warrants in 2018 than it did in 2017, and 500% more in 2019 than in 2018. So you're talking about tremendous year after year increases in the use of these warrants. Luckily, some people aren't just taking the guilty plea, and they are going to court, and that's why the EFF is weighing in on this situation here. According to the New York Times, the company received as many as 180 requests in a single week in the year of 2019. Geofence warrants typically follow a similar multi-stage process, which appears to have been created by Google. For the first stage, law enforcement identifies one or more geographic areas and time periods relevant to the crime. The warrant then requires Google to provide information about any devices identified by a numeric identifier that happen to be in the area within the given period of time. Google says that to comply with the first stage, it must search through its entire store of location history data to identify the responsive data on tens.
See, at that point,
so everybody in the United States,
they have become effectively government agents because they're working for the government to seek this data out.
They created the process.
They've been hired by the police.
They made this possible for them.
Yes, and I guarantee that they're getting paid for it, if not in cash, in favors and privileges.
Oh, Google definitely gets paid for it. There's, these companies. I forget exactly what it is, but there's a certain fee that they usually get for responding to these sorts of requests. Yeah.
Huh. From the government? The government pays them?
I do believe that is
I would argue that if the government paid you to disclose the data, that guess what? You're a government employee and subject to the same restrictions they are.
Which isn't much. But yes.
Yeah, right.
Google has also
said enough to prevent them from doing that.
So they have to go through the entire store of location data history to identify responsive data on tens of millions of users, nearly all of whom are located well outside the geographic scope of the warrant. Google has also said the volume of data it produces at this stage depends on the size and nature of the geographic area and length of time covered by the warrant, which vary considerably from one request to the next, but the company once provided the government with identifying information for nearly 1,500 devices.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
After Google releases the initial de-identified pool of responsive data, police then in the second stage demand Google provide additional location history outside of the initially defined area and time frame for a subset of users that the officers at their own discretion determine are, quote, relevant to their investigation. So again, that's where they get the supposedly anonymized data. They say, okay, well, we're interested in looking at these phones specifically, and that's this step 2. Finally, in the third stage, officers demand Google provide identifying information for a smaller subset, including user's name, email address, device identifier, phone number, and other account information. Again, officers rely solely on their own discretion to determine the second subset and which devices to target for further investigation. There are many problems.
Completely unconstitutional.
There are many problems with this kind of search. First, most of the information provided to law enforcement in response to a geofence warrant does not pertain to individuals suspected of the crime.
Yep.
Second,
big problem right there.
And as not all device owners have opted into location history, search results are both over and under inclusive. And finally, Google has said there's only an estimated 68% chance that the user is actually where Google thinks they are. So the users Google identifies in response to the geofence warrant may not even be within the geographic area as defined by the warrant.
And the crazy thing is, this is the more accurate information that they're collecting, like GPS data and stuff.
They don't know if you left your phone in your car.
No, they don't.
So maybe your car was there, maybe your phone was there, maybe you weren't.
Or you left it in the back of an Uber.
Yeah. Oh, or maybe you lent it out to your kid, or who knows, any number of things. And the crazy thing is, it gets even worse because this is the more accurate thing. They've also got they also get warrants for tower data. So there's cases where they basically have information on users based off of the specific tower they were connected to, but that doesn't mean it was the tower. The problem with that is that the tower information that they have doesn't tell anybody where the person was. It only tells what tower they were connected to.
So it's not triangulation data then.
Yeah, exactly. So if they did something called a ping, they would have more specific location information as to where they were. But because it's just billing data, they effectively don't know if the person was at the scene of the crime or around the scene of the crime. They could be all the way across town because they're
however far the signal reaches to the tower.
Exactly. It depends on which tower their cell phone happened to connect to, and if the current closest tower is just overly busy or any other number of things, it will go to another tower. And maybe it's not the next closest tower. Maybe that one's also busy.
Well, I mean, the tower, here in Keene covers the entire city, right? It's right up on a hillside.
But you also have to remember that it depends on the area and other factors, right? So, but they then go and they testify. They get up on the stands. These forensics people testify on the stands that it has to be this person, and then the defense has to defend it, and they can't because public defenders don't have the tools to extract more precise data from people's phones, and they end up taking plea deals and all sorts of stuff usually.
There's a little more the EFF has to say about this, and we'll continue. Your thoughts are also welcome. Our number is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about geofence warrants. And you can take control of the airwaves and bring up what you want. This is Free Talk Live.
From New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author Larry Correia comes the latest chapter in the epic military fantasy saga of The Forgotten Warrior, when the Grand Inquisitor perverts the law in his genocidal plot to kill every man, woman, and child in the untouchable cast. Only the traitor, Ashok Vadal, and the Sons of the Black Sword stand in his way. If it's war he wants, it is war he will get. Bain Books presents Destroyer of Worlds. Available September 1st, wherever books are sold. Visit MonsterHunterNation.com for more. On a multidimensional probe, the Syscov Trans-Temporal Vehicle Clio discovers two entire universes have been annihilated in a massive time-traveling accident. Robert Kaminsky and his crew race home with the news, only to learn their own universe is next. To pull off the impossible, they'll have to embrace the unpalatable by placing their trust in the admin, Syscov's xenophobic sister universe, and the same people who tried to kill them all only months before. The Valkyrie Protocol by David Weber and Jacob Hollow. Available October 6th, wherever books are sold. Visit Bain Books at Bain.com for more.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Where you've got the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, weighing in on the idea that we've been discussing for a good chunk of the show tonight. Geofencing warrants, the idea that the police can just go to Google and demand information about who was in a certain area and all the phones that were in a specific area during a specific time when an alleged crime was committed, and then drill down even further to get information about specific phones from that data set, and then possibly come after you because you happen to be in the vicinity of something that happened.
Happen to be jogging by and somebody got murdered, and well, now you're the prime suspect because, well, nobody saw anybody else, and the murderer didn't have their cell phone.
Was smart enough to leave their phone at home, right? So it's Ian, Nobody, and Chris in the studio here tonight. But let's go back. Let's go to the phones, to the fun. We got David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Yeah, shower time with Bubba. But 8-9 years ago, I'll tell you in a minute. 8-9 years ago, Facebook quoted me $150 per inquiry for a search warrant, to fill the warrant with whatever info.
How did they quote you on that? You're not a cop, right?
Well, I'm a lawyer because I was working on a case pro se, and so therefore I have the powers of my lawyer, and I was calling them up, telling them I needed to know how to serve them with a warrant, and the fee was $150.
Interesting.
You just said consecutively that you were a lawyer and you had the powers of your lawyer.
Well, acting as a lawyer for himself, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, it's not an actual lawyer.
If you're acting, if you are party to a case and you've entered the case is filed and you have entered your appearance as a pro se or pro per litigant, you have all the powers of an attorney to serve search warrants.
Unless you're in Pennsylvania,
like obviously,
and from out of state.
Pardon, unless. Yeah. Okay.
So, but Pennsylvania will demand that you actually hire a certified lawyer, even in your own case, if you are out of state and you want to try to subpoena the video from a cop car after you get pulled over or something like that.
All right, so David, what else were you calling about tonight?
Oh, I lost a year of my shower time with Bubba. I'm really disappointed. Now I only have the possibility of showering with Bubba for 2 years instead of 3, because the DA of
so you won part of your
County,
case.
Huh?
You won part of your case, you're saying?
Yeah, the DA of Bernalillo County here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, surrendered to me today. I guess I was too hard on him. I didn't want them to surrender. I wanted them to keep fighting because I'm enjoying the fight. But they surrendered on one of the 4 cases today, so I only have the possibility of showering with Bubba for 2 years instead of 3.
So what charges are you now facing?
I'm facing the one that we'll put it this way: the one they dismissed or the one they surrendered on today was a use of the telephone to harass, threaten, annoy, intimidate. And there's a couple other terms. A 30-20-12 in New Mexico is what they surrendered on. Ironically, there's still another identical charge, the same exact thing, that remains, along with a stalking and a simple harassment.
And all of this is because you called a radio station at the college attempting to get on a talk show.
Yeah, KUNM, Let's Talk New Mexico, a KUNM call-in show.
Why do you think they dropped one of the 2 charges?
Well, because they know they're going to lose them all. I've been trying to get them to continue to fight because there are things that I'm gaining. I'm gaining some things from the fight, and they know they're going to lose, and so they've already offered. A couple days ago, they said, "Well, we put a global, you put all the cases together, plea deal on the table."
Yeah, plea deal.
And
global settlement.
I declined that, and then now 2 days later, they come with, "Well, we don't want to fight on this one anymore, so we're going to file to dismiss this one," and so that leaves 3 that they're still fighting on, and obviously they're going to try to surrender on those 3 too, and I need to keep them fighting as long as I can because I like it.
This sounds like standard operating procedure for prosecutors. I mean, they will give you a little bit and a little bit more until they eventually get a plea deal at you. I'm not surprised. You don't plead guilty. You know, if you're going to plead, and even if you are going to plead guilty, don't do it right away. Wait, make them work for it first.
Have you noticed how tenaciously this guy calls the show?
Oh yeah,
he's not going to take a plea.
Good. Thank you, David, for the call tonight. I don't know if I would agree that I'm willing to go to court. I'm willing to stand up for myself, but I don't know if I would say I really like it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't either.
I'd rather be doing other things.
There's better things to be doing with my time than going to court.
But I will do it, and I won't pay a fine, and I won't let them push me around.
Oh, yeah.
But thank you, David. So I do appreciate where you're coming from, and thanks for the update on that. Let's go to a different David. This one's in Michigan, listening in Jackson to WKHM. Go ahead, David.
Well, good evening, gents. How are you?
Hi, what's on your mind?
This may be a little bit over my head listening to coming in late after the high school football games, but is this just total government overreach as far as I'm looking at this? Or
what are you referring to?
Well, the case in New Mexico, and of course the tens of thousands of laws on the books. I mean,
well, yeah, all that crap needs to go away.
Take a stand.
Yeah, that is a good question of when are people going to say enough is enough? How many more thousands of laws that no one has ever read, mind you? including the politicians who voted on them.
They don't even read them when they pass them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like
I've actually got an interesting solution to that I'm going to give up on. Nobody Tells the Truth.
You mean tonight at 10:30 Eastern Time on twitch.lrn.fm and dlive.lrn.fm?
Exactly.
So check that out, David. Maybe that'll be a more detailed conversation on the matter. But yeah, there's a lot of, and thank you for the call tonight, man. I appreciate it. And my only quibble with what David said there was government overreach. It's a common phrase that people use, a common saying. Any government is overreach.
Yeah.
Any the state is overreach. I don't want any of these people reaching into my life in any way, shape, or form, trying to tell me how to live, trying to tell me who I can associate with, what business I can do, how much money I got to pay them. I'm not interested in that. Any
theft is over theft, and any slavery is over slavery.
They
Absolutely.
only ever add,
and I'm over it.
They only ever add to the restraints and restrictions that they put on otherwise free people, and I think that's part of the problem. It's they don't undo, they don't remove.
Almost never
anyway.
There have been a few times in New Hampshire, they have shut down a toll booth here and there in New Hampshire.
So I want to ask you this: the problem with this is, I think, do they ever add more or remove more laws than they add?
No, of course not.
That's the key right there.
It's only noteworthy because
when they're at gunpoint.
It's only noteworthy when they remove a thing because it's so rare,
right,
that happens.
Yeah.
So back to the EFF and these warrants that we've been discussing here, the geofencing warrants. They say these problems have led into investigations that ensnare innocent individuals. In one case, police sought detailed information about a man in connection with a burglary after seeing his travel history in the first step of a geofence warrant. However, the man's travel history was part of an exercise tracking app that he used to log months of bike rides that happened to take him past the site of the burglary. Investigators eventually acknowledged that he shouldn't have been a suspect, but not until after the man hired an attorney at God knows what cost.
And spent 6 days in jail. And yeah, I know.
And after his life was upended for a time.
Mm.
The example shows why geofence...
Tell me about it. I went through 2 years of persecution for being a felon in possession of a garden tool.
Yeah,
yeah, that was absolutely crazy.
The example shows why geofence warrants are so pernicious and why they violate the Fourth Amendment. They lack particularity because they don't properly and specifically describe an account or a person's data to be seized, and they result in overbroad searches that can ensnare countless people with no connection to the crime. These warrants leave it up to the officers to decide for themselves, based on no concrete standards, who is a suspect and who isn't. The Fourth Amendment was written specifically to prevent these kinds of broad searches.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about.
As we argued in the Dawes case, the geofence warrant is a digital analog to the general warrants issued in England.
Digital analog? Did they really say that?
They did. And colonial America that authorized officers to search anywhere they liked, including people or homes, simply on the chance that they might find someone or something connected with the crime under investigation. There's a little bit more here on the EFF, and we'll share that with you. And you can share your thoughts with us. Take control of the airwaves on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have 2 convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes. See Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Hey, Free Talk Live here. Moments remain. Enough time for you if you want to join us now. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And in the studio with you here tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
Make sure you check out Chris's show. He's got Freedom Decrypted. It is a freedom-friendly tech show that happens on Saturday evenings. 5 p.m. Eastern Time is the start. What's it? Usually an hour and a half? 2 hours?
3 hours.
Sometimes, wow, 3 hours.
It's usually 3 hours.
Okay.
I mean, we cover all sorts of topics that, in the week for the news. I mean, it's a once a week, 1 day a week show. So it's, I mean, it's probably a bit much for,
one listen depending on what you're doing, but I got a lot of good feedback from it, so it's working out real well.
You sometimes have guests on with you, and you're going to have one tomorrow.
We will.
Expected Duke.
And Duke, yep, he should be coming
Hush. We've had Duke on Free Talk Live on an occasion.
Apparently, there's a super interesting story that he'll probably have to tell. Yeah. So you'll have to check it out, listen in, and
I'm interested in hearing this. Like it's crazy what they've been dealing with over at Hush with trying to have an anonymous cryptocurrency that obviously the government is not going to like.
Oh yeah.
And trying to get that out there into things like exchanges and this decentralized exchange that they were involved with that's now being just, I don't know what the right word is, taken over by agents.
Is it decentralized exchange?
No. So there's two issues. There's one.
Oh, okay.
The Hush was trying to get on an actual centralized exchange, and it was happening, and then it got scuttled.
Oh, okay.
That's one story.
Okay.
And the other story is their decentralized exchange that the Komodo people had put together called Atomic Dex. That nobody and I have actually had some experimenting with, and it had some promise.
Yep.
Like it was a decentralized exchange protocol that it's open source, so anybody can write for it,
yep.
anybody can fork it. And the people behind this have been apparently taken over on the inside by military NSA type people who are now saying that they have to do know your customer, anti-money laundering requirements on a decentralized
exchange. This sounds like a project
exchange.
we need to fork.
And that's what he's going to talk to you about, I think, tomorrow.
Oh, this is super interesting. I'm liking this.
He's going to fork
them if they can't take a joke.
This is going to be a super, super interesting show tomorrow.
That's why that's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
So you actually know more than I know, and it's funny because I had a few conversations with I didn't have conversations with him. He just was posting links about stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, Duke. And so you actually have more.
I'm excited. I think,
knowledge here
because I was excited about the Atomic Dex.
Yep.
And now that's been taken over, and it's done.
See,
it's done.
How would they? The Atomic Dex thing is a technique that's done on the blockchain.
Correct.
How are they going to prevent you from doing those transactions on the blockchain without their permission?
I don't know.
They won't be able to. They're trying to undermine the project, right?
They'll only be able to do it in their own software. Other software would be able to get around it. So
so I mean, basically, if you can create the transaction, okay, I guess they would have to have the miners reject it. If the miners reject it, then
I think that what they're going to do. I don't have the details, but you want to talk to Duke about this. But there's somebody who's behind this.
Sitting in.
Somebody who's behind this particular project is a government guy. And wants them to be anti-money laundering compliant. And so Duke's like, screw this, we're forking this. So now they're going to have Hush Dex. So they're going to have their own decentralized exchange, which hopefully will not get corrupted and will actually make it to market and be useful.
Money laundering legislation is basically a big part of how they stop poor people from making money. Oh, you don't have that much money. Well, we're going to watch you very closely to make sure you don't start a business.
Never get anything. Yeah. I just want to finish the final thoughts from the Electronic Frontier Foundation about these warrants. The warrants we've been discussing here, the geofence warrants. As they point out, the geofence warrant they consider to be the digital analog to the general warrants issued in England and colonial America. And you actually suggested this earlier in the show tonight, Nobody.
That nobody got time for that. Well, that's one of the reasons the general warrants were issued in the United States, and that's one of the reasons that we have a Fourth Amendment. The 10 amendments are all reactions, including the Third Amendment, quartering of soldiers, all a reaction to things that happened to the colonists.
Correct. So they liken that to the general warrants, which authorized the goons to search anywhere they wanted, and simply on the chance that they might find something. The chief problem with searches like this is they leave too much of the search in the discretion of the officer and can too easily result in general exploratory searches that unreasonably interfere with a person's right to privacy. The Fourth Amendment's particularity and probable cause requirements, as well as the requirement of judicial oversight, were designed to prevent this. but yet these are happening all over the place.
Yeah, it's a fishing expedition.
Reverse location searches are the antithesis of how our criminal justice system is supposed to work. As with other technologies that purport to pull a suspect out of thin air, like facial recognition, predictive policing, and genetic genealogy searches, there's just too high a risk that they'll implicate an innocent person, shifting the burden of proving guilt from the government to the individual, who now has to prove their innocence. We think these searches are unconstitutional, even with a warrant. The defendant's motion to quash the geofence warrant and motion to suppress will be heard in San Francisco Superior Court in August, so hopefully we can get an update on this case.
What was the we for? Did you say that was a board of judges or just one judge? Were they using the royal we?
The we is the EFF.
Oh, okay, the EFF.
This is the electronic front. This is not an opinion of a court.
I see. That's what I missed.
Yeah. So the case in this particular case, let's see, where was it? People versus Dawes. This is a San Francisco-based case. We'll see if there's any updates. Courts haven't really been very useful in the recent months, so I don't know if that hearing actually happened. There's a chance that the hearing from August 25th was postponed. You know what I mean? Like that it hasn't even happened yet. So if there's an update on this, hopefully you will let us know. I'm not seeing anything in the news about this. So anyway, 855-450-FREE, that's our toll-free number. And, we got actually a little bit of interesting news from Halloween, right? Like Halloween, it's going to be pretty lame out there. There's been some pretty ridiculous stories about how to safely dispense candy to kids walking around, neighborhoods in the towns that are actually allowing trick or treating. They're going overboard with the safety precautions.
I can't put razor blades in the apples anymore.
No, you can't do that. But there's a little bit of kind of good news. Like, there's still some creative people out there doing some cool stuff. Did you guys see this Halloween crime scene where somebody's got some pretty gruesome looking photograph? Like, these photographs are gruesome. This gruesome scene with just blood everywhere on somebody's front porch and headless decapitated bodies and things like that. Apparently the police have been called multiple times on this particular house because it's so gory. The scene, according to the Dallas Observer.
Of course, that goes the other way sometimes. Every once in a while, there's a corpse that gets left sitting out for a couple weeks around Halloween because everybody thinks it's a decoration.
Right,
that's true.
That has happened.
That really happens.
Local artist Stephen Novak finds himself in his East Dallas neighbors, as the Dallas Police Department will attest. Is a horrifying situation. He says, I've always been up to hijinks like flying ghosts or 7-foot-tall snow sculptures of myself. So if I was going to do Halloween, it was obvious that it should be hyper real, he said. No lights, fog, machine, or camp, something that would really freak people out walking by in the dark. So I whipped up some dummies and slung 20 gallons of blood all over. His home holds a horror show. In his yard, one dummy lies with his head pulverized, another with a scale where his or her head used to be, and a few more lie in bloodied trash bags fallen off a wheelbarrow. All the while, in the window of the house, a zombie horde attempts to break out. He says, I'm most proud of the wheelbarrow tipped over by the street full of hefty bags, looking like a failed attempt to dispose of dismembered bodies in the middle of the night. He said a kid walked by and asked me what happened to them. I said they ate too many Skittles. He says that people have been calling the police on him, according to the story. Neighbors told me cop cars were in front of my house.
He's lucky he hasn't been killed.
Right. He says, neighbors told me cop cars were in front of my house a lot during the day. I was only home twice to actually meet with them. They told me they thought it was cool and that they were only there because they were required to reply to complaints from the sergeant. They were in formation at the door, and when I opened it, they asked me if it was all mine. I asked, you mean the blood and the bodies? Yeah, that's me. He said.
That's not a good response.
Not a good plan. Don't talk to the cops.
They'll try you, even though there's no dead body.
Right. So anyway, it's nice to see somebody doing something gory and taking it, having a little bit of fun with Halloween. We'll get to the lame-o stories for you tomorrow night, and boy, is Halloween going to be super lame in some places. I just can't even tell you how bad it's going to be. We'll get to it tomorrow. Meantime, join us for Nobody Tells the Truth. He's up in about a half an hour on our DLive channel at dlive.lrn.fm or twitch.lrn.fm.
Yeehaw!
Stay tuned. GCN, you got to turn that up, man. I can't hear it. Thank you.
And for the world of the living to survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by TJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Bain Books at BainBooks.com.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
The latest episode of Questioning Authority is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Focusing on the Midwest, I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Both President Trump and former Vice President Biden with campaign stops in 3 Midwest states in an effort to shore up support in the last days before the election.
Minnesota hasn't supported a Republican for president since 1972, but 4 years ago, President Trump lost the state by just a little over 1 point. Joe Biden says he's not taking the state for granted.
President Trump is spreading division and discord. He thinks that he can divide us.
Biden held a drive-in rally in St. Paul hours before President Trump's visit to Rochester. The president also rallied supporters in neighboring Wisconsin.
Together with the incredible people of Wisconsin, we have made America powerful again.
President Trump won Wisconsin 4 years ago by a slim margin, a critical state in his election night victory. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The latest Fox News poll finds Biden leading the president by 8 points nationally, 2 points tighter than the last poll 2 weeks ago, but not as tight as it was last month. The poll also found wide support for Biden among suburban women, black voters, and people under 30. The president has the most support among white men, rural voters, and evangelicals. A federal judge has postponed the president's threatened shutdown of TikTok, siding with a Pennsylvania comedian and 2 other TikTok users who say the order hampers their free speech. The Trump administration maintains the app, which is owned by a Chinese company, is a security threat. Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old suspect in the deadly shooting of 2 people during an August protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, has been extradited.
Rittenhouse did turn himself into police in Lake County, Illinois, where he lives, and then attorneys for Rittenhouse fought extradition back to Kenosha, where he's been charged with intentional homicide and attempted intentional homicide.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. America is listening to Fox News. No new trial for a Kennedy cousin for the murder of his neighbor in 1975.
Prosecutors say Michael Skakel will not face a second trial in the death of Martha Moxley, who was 15 when she was killed in 1975. The Connecticut chief state's attorney said today the case could not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The announcement came 45 years to the day that Moxley was found bludgeoned to death in her Connecticut neighborhood with a 6-iron owned by the Skakel family. Skakel, the nephew of Robert F. Kennedy's widow, Ethel, was convicted of murder in 2002 and served 11 years in prison, freed in 2013 when his conviction was overturned. Prosecutors faced several difficulties in a potential retrial, including a lack of physical evidence and the death of a key witness. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Full House actress Lori Loughlin has reported to a federal prison in California to begin serving her 2-month sentence for her role in the college admissions cheating scandal. Her husband, designer Massimo Giannulli, was sentenced to 5 months for paying $500,000 in bribes to get their daughters into USC. 2 men facing charges in Florida after police say they stole mail, including ballots.
Police in Lighthouse Point, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale, say 2 men were found not just with mail and ballots which don't belong to them, which itself is a crime, but a homemade device the officers say they used to fish the ballots out of a mailbox. 28-year-old Junior Alexander Cabral and 20-year-old Vladimir Cabral Cuevas are being held in lieu of bond. A lawyer for one of them insists police overcharged his client and are politicizing the incident. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Get ready to pay more for Netflix. The streaming service is raising most of its prices in the U.S. from between 8 and 13%. The most popular plan goes up $1 to $14 a month. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active.